Is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl, or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition? What does it mean to be a boy or a girl, or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was just understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court.
I'm not a biologist.
The R word. This is shameful.
In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live, a proud duct tape production for Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. Thank you for tuning in. Sitting shotgun tonight is our friend and my former Bible study leader, Robert. ICE hasn't found him yet, but they will soon. Welcome back.
Thank you. Very glad to be back.
The reviews are in, Robert, after your last appearance, and really I prompted this, but the viewers demand I do something to reduce the scalp glare. So I'm bringing back my iconic Twins hat to honor the disgraced state of Minnesota. I stole Robert's style anyway, so Robert's the originator. He deserves to wear the look, and I will take on the hat-wearing duties tonight.
Thank you. Your cultural appropriation has really bothered me so far.
I don't know if you saw the rumors today, Robert. Rumor has it we're about to launch some sort of military strike against Iran within the next 24 hours, at least sources say. I'm going to refrain from speculation about that sort of thing because until the rumor is reality, I just don't know. But you have any Iran opinions before we get into other matters?
I do. Do you just want to get into it or save it for later?
I actually didn't know you have strong Iran opinions. Go right ahead.
Well, I'm not as much of an isolationist as most people are nowadays. I do think that we need friends, we need allies, and so they would be a great ally. But
wait,
later,
Iran's going to be our ally? We have to make them into an ally? Is that what you're saying?
Let me say this. I know you probably want to do your intro and all that, but I do think that there are times when the U.S. can actually help a country, like take Chile, for example. With our dictator, he was actually quite a good guy, or he did some good things. Mm-hmm. That was an inside effort that the U.S. supported, and it turned out great for Chile. In this Iran situation, seems to me that it could be that.
As long as there are helicopter rides, okay? If there are helicopter rides, I'll listen. Until then, I'm not interested. But we just gave a helicopter ride to Maduro and didn't even finish the helicopter ride properly. So I'm a little skeptical. Mm-hmm. But we'll see before the end of the stream. I don't know. Might be yet another World War III incident happening tonight. For discussion tonight, unless there's some kind of breaking news like that. Tim, by the way, if you're listening, if we go to war with Iran during the stream, please hop into the Discord and let us know. I would like that information when it becomes available. But in the meantime, plenty more protests in Minnesota, including the legend of MAGA Tyson. Did you see the footage of MAGA Tyson, Robert?
Is that the guy who took out 4 other guys?
Yeah, speaking of methods of dealing with communists, MAGA Tyson, he didn't have a helicopter at his disposal, but he did an admirable job. Check in on that one. He's facing prosecution, of course. One of the few to face prosecution in Hennepin County, Minnesota, but he committed a crime so heinous, the prosecutor is actually coming after him. The Supreme Court hears the case about banning transgender athletes from women's sports, and it gets as confused and as stupid as you'd expect. Sounded a lot like Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation hearing a few years ago. What is a woman? Who's to say? I don't know. I'm not a biologist. I could never define the term. Of course, Dilbert creator and longtime streamer Scott Adams has passed away And he has a parting message for all of us. God bless him. I don't know if you saw Robert, but he left a message saying he has come to accept Christ as his Savior. And that was his parting message with everybody. So very meaningful moment for him. And we'll play a little bit of that. Plus, I got all kinds of odds and ends. Of course, we'll take your calls as well, voicemails, emails, all of that stuff. If you'd like to call the show live, you can do that using the Discord server that's linked in the description. There are instructions and help available for you on the server. Tim will help you out unless he's monitoring the World War III situation. If that's the case, then you might have to wait a minute. If you'd like to leave a voicemail, the number's in the description. You can leave a voicemail in the next hour or so. We'll play that and respond to it later in the show as well. Before we get started, got to say hello to our friendly listener-owned business for the evening. That's our friends at Hero Soap Company. If you listen to this show, you already know that Hero Soap Company offers my fine signature soaps, Timberline and Old West, and you know that you can subscribe and save money and get soap sent straight to your door each month. But there's also a new scent from our friends at Hero Soap Company, Bourbon Plus Lime. Is a warm and zesty blend of rich and complex notes of aged spirits and bright citrus. As always, 10% off everything from our friends at Hero Soap Company using promo code MCListener. Find all the information on Hero Soap at mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. By the way, you can go to herosoapcompany.com too. Just be sure to use promo code MCListener. But if you forget, mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals, deals by listeners for listeners. All right, moving into it, Robert. As I mentioned, a great many meme characters have emerged from all of the Minnesota controversy lately. There, of course, is the retarded Governor Tim Walz.
The R word. This is shameful.
There's the Leering Center in downtown Minneapolis, now rebranded as the Quality Learning Center. They did find the money in the budget to become the Learning Center. By the way, Nick Shirley has another video that was out today. I haven't watched it yet, but did you see that one today, Robert? Have you caught it?
I only saw that it was going to come out. I'm kind of eager to see what it's about.
I know he was posting I don't know if his video today is about it, but I know he was posting recently about how much money is being poured into translator services in Minnesota. That is to say, you have some kind of public event or there's some kind of school event. If you need either I don't know if it's Somali translation or is that the language they speak there, by the way? Do they speak Somali or is it something else?
I mean, it's a made up language.
You're my foreign correspondent, okay? You have to know these things. Whatever language it is, there's apparently public money for translation services. It might be for like sign language stuff too. But just like there are a lot of Somali kids with autism, it sounds like there are a lot of Somali translation needs that are publicly funded too. And Nick Shirley's been looking into that. But
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, from what I heard also, and I mean, this is just hearsay. People fact check this, please. But I think the scandal also relates to the transportation of the translators.
They get paid to be bussed around too?
Apparently so. I just heard that. I don't know if that is true. So people, please fact check it.
So we got Tim Walz, we got the Leering Center, all the Nick Shirley discoveries. There's the Somali bean pile eater, Jacob Fry. Well, now we can add MAGA Tyson to the list of Minnesota legends and Minnesota memes, as in Mike Tyson, the boxing legend. This guy is MAGA Tyson because of his similar knockout skills, apparently. But this incident happened December 27th, a couple weeks ago. This at the federal building at Fort Snelling. This is near the Minneapolis airport. Video of the event only emerged within the last couple days, earlier this week. This man identified as Zach X was counter-protesting. There was an anti-ICE protest at this federal building. This guy named Zach X is counter-protesting. It looks like it's just him with an American flag. And then the anti-ICE protesters start getting aggressive with him. They've got some kind of megaphone siren, and they're holding it in his face and being very aggressive with it. And eventually Zach X, this newly dubbed MAGA Tyson, he's had enough, and he unleashes the fury of his fists. And by my count, he took out at least 5 of these anti-ICE protesters. Some of them came back for seconds and got taken out again. Others went down with just one punch. So they're calling him a pedophile protector. Not even the whistles could inspire them to victory. The last guy here, or one of the last guys.
Hey, guys.
It's the guy in the red.
The guy in the
video.
The guy in the red is the cherry on the sundae. Just to emphasize, I want to play it one more time just to see this, what looks like a tree falling after it is freshly harvested. Timber.
Hey, guys.
He died.
I don't. People score clean knockouts in that way sometimes. I don't know what it is about that one that is so funny to me. I know I shouldn't laugh at violent episodes. But speaking of comedic ends for those of commie persuasions, you got helicopter rides or you got encounters with MAGA Tyson. What a clean punch at the end. I mean,
It's funny because it's like a cartoon. Like the way he falls is literally how you would draw it in a cartoon.
Yeah. By the way, I think I heard a Discord sound off you there. So if you can disable Discord,
Yes,
Discord system sounds. Yeah, we'll get that taken care of. But I mentioned MAGA Tyson actually charged for his role in that event. Misdemeanor assault is what he's charged with. Hennepin County prosecutor Mary Moriarty accuses MAGA Tyson, Zach X, of engaging in political violence, assaulting a protester whose views he disagreed with, the prosecutor says. But of course, it wasn't the views that provoked the violence. It was getting in his face with a siren, a megaphone, blasting loud sound at him for an extended period of time until he couldn't take it anymore and he fought back. And here's a question on the law that I don't know the answer to, Robert. Maybe you have some insight for me. But is there a such thing as a sound assault or just being in too close proximity assault? Because technically those anti-ICE protesters were not violent with him in the sense that they physically touched him, but I've not seen that. However, they were physically aggressive in the way that they were constantly in his personal space and shoving a very loud sound-making device in his face. Is there a situation in which that would count as a form of assault to provoke a violent response?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, there's other similar things like smoke, for example. Like if I blew smoke in your face, that could be assault. And sound... yes, that would count as well. And of course, at that proximity, that could create permanent hearing loss. And so now this is state law dependent. So let me say that I don't know the specific law there, but I would be shocked if sound did not count as assault.
It won't count for Hennepin County prosecutor Mary Moriarty, but in the general sense, I suppose, in a sane jurisdiction, it might, I guess.
Absolutely.
MAGA Tyson, Zach X, has a give, send, go up. He's raised about $7,000 for his legal defense. If you would like to help out MAGA Tyson, the campaign is called Benefit for Zach X. That's ZAKX on Give, Send, Go. But my internet connection's not gone. What the hell happened to it? It says reconnection successful. Looks like just a brief interruption there. Looks like it came back. So, Tim, if you could just confirm to me that we're back on. I think we are, but looks like we are. But I just want to make sure people can hear the show. Anyway, in other Minneapolis protest events, an unnamed old woman, apparently not discouraged by the Renee Good event last week, getting shot in the face by an ICE agent. In fact, she's emboldened. I'm not sure where exactly this happened in the Minneapolis area, but it's clearly a residential area, and it's after the Renee Good shooting, because that's what she's referencing. Somewhere in the Twin Cities. She is obstructing ICE vehicles Renee Good style, and she's doing the Joseph Rosenbaum. She is literally begging, please shoot me. So here she is standing in front of law enforcement vehicles, as you can see, pointing at her face. Please shoot me in the face. You want to know the worst part of that video?
What?
They didn't fulfill the request, of course. I was looking forward to it. Never happened.
They're insane. They're insane. I just have no words. This is insane. I get the point that she's trying to make. Like, you know, if you're a killer, like, have the balls to kill me right here, right now, in front of everyone. Like, I do get the point, but she's just deranged. Like, anyone who watches this is like, I don't know what I believe about this, but I'm not with her.
Well, how about this submission? This is a self-described 42-year-old single woman. She's looking for love and justice, Robert. She posted a video. The TikTok account is Some Call Me Lizzie, so I will call her Lizzie. Lizzie posts this video on her dating app profile. She's trying to find a good man who wants to submit to her insanity. A good man who wants to ride shotgun while she, quote, fuck shit up with ice.
Here we are at my official dating profile request. I am 42. I'm almost 42. I am a relationship anarchist. I am on the lookout for somebody who right now, who I'd be able to call and say, hey, get in the passenger seat and let's go fuck some shit up. Because right now in Minneapolis, what is happening we are being occupied by ICE agents who are, of course I couldn't get this on what is happening here, who are going door to door, it's because I'm doing it backwards, going door to door and kidnapping people from their homes. Not just from their homes, they are going to schools, they are going to churches, they are going to Target, which I'm not going to lie, I'm not surprised about. We all know Target, right? So if that's
Gotta put
you,
the keffiyeh
if you're
on or
interested in
whatever it
fucking
is.
some shit up, if you're not afraid of a woman who can speak her mind, if you're interested in sitting in a side seat, message me. We got shit to do.
The American people are tired of women.
Okay. Speaking of fucking shit up, sending her a message on whatever dating app this is, guaranteed way to fuck up your life, gentlemen. I would not suggest it. But of all the insanity in there, I think the funniest insanity is that she apparently thinks Target is known for right-wing extremism. That's what Target is known for. Yes, the place that had all the Black Lives Matter merchandise, the place that celebrates Pride Month every year, the place that had the tuckable swimwear for transgender people. They walked that back slightly, and now they're known for extreme right-wing politics. Oh, we all know Target. That clearly Target is in cahoots with ICE.
Yeah. Now, right next to like the rainbow trans clothing, they're selling conversion kits so you can turn your kids not gay. Clearly, like they're right there.
Yeah.
This is so sad. She's an attractive woman. Like, she doesn't have to be crazy.
For her age, however, to be that crazy, you must be at least this hot per the chart. And she's not there. Maybe in her day. In her day, I'm not trying to take shots, but we have a call to this effect later in the show about the insanity of the progressive women these days. Yeah, it's the kiss blowing at the end too. To your point, like you're not 25, okay? I'm sorry that your sex appeal in that way has expired. The kiss blowing thing, that is not going to do anything for anybody, and we're now seeing the consequences of a whole bunch of propaganda for a generation of women that are suddenly against that wall of creating family and have to double down on their insanity that activism and all this nonsense is going to bring them the fulfillment that building a family never did. Cassandra McDonald, who posted this, said that this lady's a single mom. I didn't hear her say that in the video. I might be correct. I don't know. But yeah, you want to talk about the consequences here of telling a generation of women, oh, you don't need the patriarchy. You don't need to be a baby factory for some man. You'll find fulfillment in a career and in activism and all the. No, you won't. You'll become a crazy lady giving some weird confessional, putting on your Carhartt overalls, going out to harass ICE, insisting that you find a guy who's a big enough bitch to sit in the passenger seat and not even drive you to this potentially fatal obstruction that you're about to go to.
Mm-hmm. You know what makes it so cringy is the bit, like the way she's getting dressed. This is obviously supposed to be like a movie montage, you know? Like that's what she's like recreating. Like she's like gearing up and trying to kind of be cute. And it's like, look, if there was a real occupation, you wouldn't be turning it into a bit. Like it just,
it's not a TikTok video if you're in a war zone. Yeah,
exactly. Like people in Iran right now are not making a cute dating video. Like, hey, here's my cute shirt and my cute pants or whatever. Let's go protest and get killed or whatever. Cringe, just cringe. This woman is attractive enough to be normal. Just go find a dude the regular way.
Maybe she could find this Paul Bunyan man. And I don't want to rip on women entirely because we men have a role to play in this too. And I saw this video from formerly MSNBC, now MS Now. And it's featuring a guy who drove all the way from Madison, Wisconsin, so something like 300 miles away, over to Minneapolis, apparently to protect an area business from ICE raids or ICE intervention. And he looks like a modern Paul Bunyan, like he's going to go chop down the entirety of the Northwoods with his big blue ox, until you hear him talk, and then we know what kind of guy we're dealing with.
Paul, you came in from Madison, Wisconsin. That's a long drive. Help explain to me why you're here outside of this business.
His name's even Paul.
So I'm out here right now because this business put out a call for people to stand on this corner to watch the business for them. They've been really worried about reopening. They were shut down for the past 5 days after ICE was here, and they just aren't comfortable just doing this on their own.
Paul, I see that you have a lot of equipment on you. You have a camera, obviously. You have another GoPro back here. You've got this acts as a whistle, you were telling me. And you've also got a first aid kit. It would be easy to understand why somebody wouldn't want to be coming out here to do the work that Renee Good was doing after she lost her life. But instead, you drove in 4 hours away. Why is it so important for you to be here right now, to be doing this work right now?
I have family in this community, so I was really worried about them. They shared their concerns, and they have a young son. They're not able to do this work. They're not able to stand here and watch over the neighborhood. So I'm here for them.
I am a gay homosexual.
What is the work? The work that Renee Good was doing. The work that Renee Good was doing was neglecting her child, or at least the interests of her child. That's what she was doing.
I was thinking, to continue the work Renee Good was doing, you had to stay in your car.
Yeah, what is he doing exiting the vehicle like that?
Yes, exactly.
But go ahead.
Man. No, I was just going to say, same as the other lady. Dude, you look normal. You have a good looking beard, you know, hashtag no homo, whatever. Like, you can go get a girl the normal way. Like, just go be normal.
I wonder if that's, is it about, do you think it's a scheme? I mean, he seems like an obviously gay guy to me, but maybe, or is it he's just really soft and this is a scheme to get chicks?
I don't know. I mean, he seems normal. I don't know. I don't know. Some people just have to be desperate for meaning in life, and this is it. And by the way, I do kind of get that. I do want to say that, like, if I had nothing going for me, and now I imagine that I am part of this like heroic, like civil rights movement of sorts. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would bring a lot of meaning. And
well. And that's the question. When he says, well, a lot of people don't have time to do what I'm doing, to do this work, how is it that you have time, sir? I presume you don't have a family if you're doing this. If you are doing this despite your family, I have a lot of questions about that. What job allows you to leave on a moment's notice to drive to the other state half a day over to go, I guess, defend illegal immigrants from deportation? If this guy had something of his own to protect, and by that I mean a family generally, number one, he's not wasting his time on this stupid stunt. And number two, he probably has a different perspective about the wisdom of keeping foreign criminals in this country. I'm speculating about what his personal life is like, but I think you're right. It implies that there's not a lot going on there at home.
Absolutely. And, you know, you see these people participating in these protests, they're dressed well, they're clean, like they clearly have money, and I'm not saying he's wealthy by any means, but I'm saying he's clearly provided for, he's doing okay. But he also has the time to go stand in the middle of a street on like a Monday or whenever.
Yeah.
And so it kind of tells you that this is a person, I guess here's what I'm getting at, that when you are actually super broke, like that alone kind of gives meaning to your life. Now, I'm not wishing that on anyone, but I'm saying you're like every day in the grind, like, man, I need to go get a job. I need to make some extra money. My car just broke down. Like you have a million things to worry about. This has to be a person that doesn't have those concerns, but has the time to waste. And that seems to
I
me
assume someone is paying him for this. Who might that be? Well, that's a mystery we'll have to solve another day. Mm-hmm. But one last note about the Minneapolis ongoings. Now, this is an interesting piece of information about Renee and Becca Good. So those are the two lesbians at the center of this latest shooting. Becca Good, of course, is the one who was outside the car urging her quote-unquote wife to drive, baby, drive, before Renee then hit the gas and suffered the consequences. Now we know, as we were talking about on Sunday, there's $1.5 million GoFundMe raised on behalf of Renee Good. However, is Becca actually Renee's family? I say quote-unquote wife there, at least in this context, not because it's a lesbian marriage, but because it doesn't appear to be a marriage at all under the law. According to Julie Kelly, who's done a lot of great investigative work on a lot of stories, including January 6th, she's been looking into she's trying to find the marriage records of Becca and Renee Good. She has searched far and wide in several states where Renee Good is known to have lived, and she has no evidence or can find no evidence that Renee Good and Becca Good were married. All she can find is a 2023 name change for Renee Good, changing her last name to Good to share the last name of her quote-unquote partner. But that's not a marriage record. That's just a name change. And the reason this is interesting is not just because it invites questions about what else might be misrepresented or perhaps lied about in this case. It's because it may call the GoFundMe into question, or at least what happens with that money. Now, I was looking at the GoFundMe here. I don't remember what it said earlier when it was launched. Now it says for Becca Good. So I assume that because it's in Becca Good's name here, maybe it would still go to Becca Good. But if it's for Renee Good and Becca Good is not actually Renee Good's wife, then maybe you have some questions about who's entitled to that money. Excuse me. That more importantly than the money, even though it's a giant pile of money, there's the question of who has the rights to the custody of the kid. Now, Becca Good had given a statement to the Washington Post that we talked about on Sunday, in which she said that we, being her and Renee, are raising our son to do this and that and believe in equality and acceptance and blah, blah, blah. But it's not, in fact, our son, as in her son, because number one, she's not the biological mother of the child. And if there's no legal marriage between the two, what right to custody would she have? It's a little bit I assume there's a little bit of a legal mess or some legal questions here, Robert. I don't know if you have any thoughts or insight on that stuff. But the fact that they are not married or appear not to be married, I assume is going to create some complications here.
Yeah, absolutely. On the money, I mean, that GoFundMe, it is set up for Becca Good. And so the money is for her. It will go to her. I wonder if there could be some claim that the fact that she's calling herself the widow would give rise to, some kind of fraud, like fraudulent premises to get the money. Now, I don't know, because also who would make that claim? The people who are giving would certainly not challenge this. Now, I know that technically a prosecutor in the state could bring up such fraud charges, but let's face it, no prosecutor there will do that.
No.
And so I suspect that on the money side for both legal reasons, the fact that it is for Becca Good, and for practical reasons, she's getting the money. She's going to be in the clear, I suspect.
Have you heard the theory that it was all a setup by Becca Good to get Renee killed so that she could cash in? Normally I wouldn't buy into such a thing, but the lesbian domestic violence record is undefeated. So I have to at least consider the possibility that that's what happened here.
The 4D chess theory. I mean, sure, I'll grant it. But, the custody of the child, I do think that the fact that there is no marriage, that is a huge complication.
And the dad, I think, is dead. Or I know the dad is dead. The photo here, Renee Good and her late husband, it says in the Washington Post, late husband, Timmy Macklin. So the father is dead. The mother is dead. Horrible situation for this kid for a whole bunch of reasons. I don't know what the grandparent situation is, but I guess maybe a court would award the child. If they're not married, would a court give the child custody to Becca?
They might. They might. Again, this will depend on state law. But I could foresee here the grandparents, for example, assuming there are grandparents. I don't know this, but if there are, the grandparents could step in and at least attempt to get custody. Whether they would be successful or not, who knows? But that could be a complicated legal battle.
Well, let's move on to the Supreme Court case that was heard yesterday. Robert, when you were on earlier in the year, I remember going through another transgender Supreme Court case in detail, but it wasn't this athlete one. What one were we even talking about? I can't remember. But there was one that was similarly crazy earlier in the year. Anyway.
We talked about the books in school, the gay
Maybe it was that one.
Curriculum, and some parents wanted to get out of that.
Maybe it was that one.
And there was one other case we discussed, but that was the main one. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Thank you for refreshing my memory, because I was like, I swear, I know that they haven't heard this case yet, but it's like I swear I already talked about this. But it's similar in theme, but different in specifics. Anyway, yesterday at the Supreme Court was a day of pretending that simple concepts are actually very complex and hard to understand. It really was a day of discussing the famous question from Matt Walsh's movie, What is a Woman? That's what a lot of the questioning was. This is all in the context of the states of Idaho and West Virginia and their laws that were passed in recent years prohibiting biological males from competing in women's sports in school. And supposedly that sort of ban is in violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the magical 14th Amendment, even though separating boys and girls in many different contexts has been part of American society for the entirety of our country's history, for good reason. But the challenge was brought by it's two cases combined. The first case, as I've talked about in a video before, comes from a Boise State runner, or former Boise State University runner, hilariously named Lindsay Hecox. I don't know. Just wants to swing his Hecox all over the women's cross-country track. But the state of Idaho would not let him do it. And so Lindsay Hecox has been suing the state of Idaho since 2020. Brought the challenge back then when the law passed, secured an injunction against any enforcement of the law. He then, if I recall the history correctly, I made a video about this earlier in the year. You can go back for all the specifics on that. But I believe he actually failed to make the women's cross-country team, or was very poor in his competitive effort in the women's cross-country context. Didn't make the team, left the school for a while, played like intramural soccer or something. But really, this whole lawsuit from Hecox going to the federal court system to get an injunction against enforcement of the law just kind of looks like he used it for his own purposes, because he got the injunction, he went to school, he didn't really compete on the cross-country team, he left the school. I don't think he even graduated, if I remember correctly, or he might have. And then once he was done with Boise State and it was clear that this was a legal loser, he just went, just kidding. Actually, despite years of fighting this in court, I don't want to anymore. Please dismiss the case. And there was some court battle about whether you can just walk away from the case, and is the case moot because of Hecox's effort to walk away from the case. But then the case got combined with this other one from West Virginia, which is basically the same fact pattern. You have this mom named Jackson who is bringing the case on behalf of her 15-year-old son, who is transgender and wants to compete in women's sports, women's running, track and field, cross country in high school in West Virginia. And the state of West Virginia likewise says no about that. Now, as far as the legal theory on the challenges, they talked about this for like 3.5 hours yesterday, Robert. It was even longer than my streams. They talked about the transgender sports issue. I did not have time to listen to this in its entirety. Have you listened to any of the arguments from yesterday?
I did not, but I did read like a legal summary of what transpired.
So you might be able to help me with the legal theory here a little bit, because it seems like they're just doing a shotgun blast of nonsense. I thought that they weren't trying to claim that transgender people are a suspect class under the Equal Protection Clause, because that's already been rejected by the court in the Tennessee child gender transition case from a couple years ago. But then I read in the SCOTUS blog summary here that Hecox is actually bringing that argument that the law should be subject to heightened scrutiny. We'll talk about the scrutiny standard in a second, because it discriminates on the basis of transgender status. That would imply that transgender status is some sort of suspect class and entitled to some sort of protection constitutionally. So I guess that argument's back on the table. And then you also just have a more generic equal protection sex argument that is, and this is the one coming from the mom of that 15-year-old, saying, if you are discriminating against a person on the basis of gender identity, that inherently entails differential treatment of a person based on sex. So I interpret that to mean you're just shoving this into the existing jurisprudence on sex discrimination under the Equal Protection Clause. Is that a fair interpretation, or did you understand it to be something else?
Yeah, I think that's a fair interpretation. And one of the conservative justices essentially bid on that. Like, he did make a comment to the effect that transgenders, maybe you will discuss this in a minute.
Are you talking about Gorsuch or someone else? He did that previously too. Yeah.
That they have historically been subject to discrimination, which is one of the standards, to essentially develop a protected class.
Yeah.
And so, the argument may not win the day, but it is gaining steam.
Yeah, Gorsuch's prior decision, I think, was the decision that said that transgender status is protected under the Civil Rights Act or some sort of federal legislation that clearly is dealing with sex discrimination, but he agreed with the argument that you can just lump transgenderism into that. That was a few years ago. I forget the exact situation or the exact law and the exact reasoning, but something like that. So anyway, this is all a bunch of technical mumbo jumbo. The case is fundamentally about a fundamental question. What is a woman? Because if we're alleging discrimination on the basis of being a man or being a woman, then what is a man? What is a woman? We need to know what those definitions are to judge any potential discrimination on that basis. And so here's Hecox's lawyer offering no definition for those terms when Alito asks about them.
Is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition for equal protection purposes? What does it mean to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court. And we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth sex males categorically from women's teams, and that there's a subset of those birth sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can a court determine whether there's discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means for equal protection purposes?
I think here we just know we basically know that that they've identified pursuant to their own statute.
Are you fucking stupid?
It's legal strategy. She's trying to be smarter. She's trying to be smart, but she sounds really dumb. They don't want to go further than they have to. So they're trying to make this argument about how, well, this is actually all about the state's rationale for banning transgender, quote unquote, women, biological males from sports. And they're not being specific enough. It's part like Lindsay that was the lawyer for Lindsay Hecox. Part of Hecox's argument is that the law is overbroad because it excludes the quote unquote transgender women like him who have made efforts to reduce their testosterone and thus reduce their competitive edge. So I get that this lawyer is trying not to say more than she needs to try to salvage something out of this case. I don't think she's a complete idiot. Maybe she is. I don't know. But when you are unable to answer those sorts of questions, man, does it come off as completely preposterous.
Absolutely. I mean, because everyone can tell what she's doing. It's like if she gives a definition, her case falls apart.
Yeah.
So she can't answer the question honestly. Although it seems to me she could have taken a different angle and simply defined the terms and said, yes, like when we talk about sex, we're talking about biological sex. But what we're saying here is that, we don't generally allow discrimination based on sex. We allow it in this context, but it's because of the biological differences regarding strength and size and all that. But in this case, this male has gotten rid of those advantages, those differences. So it makes the discrimination essentially nonsensical, which would also make it illegal. I think that's the line she should have taken. I mean, that makes sense. I'm not saying I agree with that, but it makes sense.
Skilled Hecox lawyer Robert. He's available for hire. Just give him a call. Alito asks another question. Okay, and this is another situation in which she has apparently burned progressive bridges because she's saying the things you're not allowed to say according to the politics, regardless of the legal strategy here. Alito asks her another question, gives her another hypothetical. What if a guy has taken absolutely no steps to become a woman? He hasn't done the chop. He hasn't taken the hormones. He hasn't even grown out his hair. Maybe even still has a beard. And yet he says, I'm a woman. Does he count as a woman just because he says he's a woman? And Hecox's lawyer says no, at least for the purposes of the law. And yes, the school could ban that guy from the girls' team.
Well, that has a boys, let's say, track team and a girls' track team. And a student who has the genes and the reproductive system of a male and had those at birth and has never taken puberty blockers, never taken female hormones, never had any gender altering or affirming surgery, says, nevertheless, I am a woman. That's who I am. Can the school say, no, you cannot participate on the girls' team?
Just a birth sex male who has all the advantages of birth sex male hormones, and can the school bar him from the women's team? Yes, they can.
But that person, is that person not a woman in your understanding? If the person says, I sincerely believe I am a woman, I am in fact a woman.
I would respect their self-identity in addressing the person, but in terms of the statute, I think the question is, does that person have a sex-based biological advantage that's going to make it unfair for that person to be part of the women's team?
You have a lot of hate in your heart.
What bigotry. She's granting the premise that males have an inherent athletic advantage over females, unless there are physical interventions to reduce that advantage.
You know, it is a strange argument to make, because where does it end? Like if you can ban people with a sex-based advantage from sports, okay, I'm going to buy into her argument. Well, why can't I ban people for other genetic-based advantages? So like, for example, if her case were to go through, by her exact argument, I could ban all people over 6'2" from competing in basketball.
Yeah, it's unfair.
They have a genetic-based advantage. You know, they're taller. Or, you know, and like that, you could come up with a million examples. And so now our sporting classifications would not depend actually on gender or sex. Let me use the word sex. They would not depend on sex. They would depend on whatever parameters we have decided. Like in basketball, we only want people that are between 5'8" and 6'2" and weigh between 160 and 250. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's bizarre.
Yeah, it is. It's saying that like it's kind of reversing the standard. That is to say, gender is the standard that has a whole bunch of secondary effects that include an inherent athletic advantage because of differences in size and lung capacity and the heart's ability to pump blood and all that stuff. her logic, like you're saying, implies that the gender is sort of a secondary incidental thing, and really it's just about the genetic differences themselves. Gender is not the focal point.
Exactly. It's only if the gender creates an actual advantage, then we can ban it. Well, again, by that thinking, you could ban any number of people for other things.
Well, of course, we're not going to get through this without hearing from Ketanji Brown Jackson, who famously could not define the term woman during her confirmation hearings in 2022. She said then she's not a biologist. I guess now she is a biologist. She has new opinions about gender. Maybe not. She sounds kind of confused as well. I don't know what her scientific credentials may have developed into in the meantime. But she says, well, I don't even understand what we're doing here. Apparently, we're saying that the only people who can be girls are those who are assigned female at birth.
You have the overarching classification, everybody has to be, play on the team that is the same as their sex at birth. But then you have a gender identity definition that is operating within that, meaning a distinction, meaning that for cisgender girls, they can play consistent with their gender identity. For transgender girls, they can't.
If anything, that's useful evidence as to the lack of a transgender-based discrimination, because if the legislature were just sort of unsettled by the notion of transgender athletes, I think the answer would have been to then bar them from passing over anyone consistent with their gender.
I appreciate that. This is really just about the definition of we accept that you can separate boys and girls, and we are now looking at the definition of a girl, and we're saying only people who were girl assigned at birth qualify.
I don't think nothing's funny about it.
Speaking of mysterious qualifications, Robert, how did Ketanji Brown Jackson get on to the Supreme Court? But yeah, I saw you nodding there along with West Virginia's lawyer. What prompted the nod?
Because she got destroyed. She got destroyed. And I don't say that lightly. Like normally in these arguments, I'm like, look, they have a point or whatever. No, she gave away the whole case because she's trying to move from this is sex-based discrimination to this is gender identity-based discrimination. But by her own setup of the question, she grants that actually nobody's discriminating based on your gender identity because no one cares about it. Like that's not even part of the legislation. The legislation is just females play with females, males play with males.
Yeah.
Which means that in no part of that legislation does gender identity even fit in. So it can't possibly discriminate based on gender identity. But she doesn't seem to like realize this until the words come out of her mouth. So the lawyer is like, exactly. Gender discrimination. I mean, like gender identity is not in the bill.
Yeah. People are accusing her of saying cisgender in there. Now, I hear her say cisgender. Well, I say it incorrectly myself. I didn't hear cisgender, but it is funny if she invented it. All the terms are preposterous, whether it's cisgender or cisginger. But we might have got a new Ketanjiism in there with cisginger. But yes, she's finally cracked the code. What is a woman? Only those who are not assigned female at birth, but observed to have the female reproductive parts at birth are that's what a woman is. It's a human. In the case of a woman, a human adult with those female reproductive parts. But she's getting closer. We're seeing progress here. This is great.
Don't you hate that phrasing though? Like female assigned at birth or girl assigned at birth. No, nobody assigned you anything. They're identifying something that is true.
It's observed. It's not assigned like I make a decision. Assignment implies like some sort of discretion on your part when you deliver whatever it is that is decided. No, it's observing objective criteria and making a determination based on the criteria.
It is disgusting. Every time I hear that phrase, I'm like, no. You mean they are a girl. Like they are female.
The Supreme Court's going to side with Idaho and West Virginia. Laws banning men from women's sports teams in the context of public schools like this, at least, it's going to be upheld because that's squarely constitutional. Separating men and women where necessary has always been constitutional. We've done it before the 14th Amendment. We've done it after the 14th Amendment. And even if it is found to be a distinction based on sex, that doesn't necessarily mean it's unconstitutional either. The 14th Amendment doesn't say no distinctions based on sex. It promises, of course, equal protection of the law, but the classification of sex under the Supreme Court's equal protection case law receives what's called intermediate scrutiny, is something between the strict protection for fundamental rights and classifications like race and religion, and the rational basis test, which is applied to just any old law that doesn't necessarily challenge or implicate a constitutional right or issue. So under intermediate scrutiny, all that has to happen here is the state has to further an important government interest, like protecting women's access to sports and activities in school, and it must use means that are substantially related to that interest, like, I don't know, keeping men out of women's sports to maintain women's sports and activity access. So I don't see a world, even if they determined this is some sort, number one, would they say that transgender identity is a new protected class? Even if they did, I don't think that's going to place it outside of intermediate scrutiny. If they determine it's a sex classification distinction, an intermediate scrutiny analysis seems to me to uphold the law. I can't see, maybe this goes 6-3, but I could see a world in which Kagan even defects, or maybe even if Sotomayor defects, you know that it was truly a sound defeat. But 6-3 is the best that the progressives are going to hope for in this. And they've actually defeated themselves because now you have case law that says these laws are squarely constitutional. So your effort to defeat or stop states from banning men from women's sports, now it's on the Supreme Court books, and it's very hard to undo. So congratulations. This is why Cox tried to get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. That's exactly why he tried to drop the case, because this precedent will be, I mean, it will stick around for decades, maybe forever. But I will say, I'm disappointed with the conservative justices. Like the comment by Kavanaugh, where he said, you know, explaining the idea that the court should stay out of it. And by that, he means uphold the state laws, meaning don't turn this into a constitutional issue where no state can pass a law. Now, just like let it be, let the states pass their own laws. But part of his reasoning was because of the scientific uncertainty.
No,
like,
I got to hear that. I didn't hear that part.
And now he may mean the scientific uncertainty regarding whether we can measure the gender-based advantages. You know, could we ever measure that those advantages have truly been removed? But no, this is so disappointing. Like, stand on principle for once and say, no, this has nothing to do with science. Like, this is a matter of principle. No, it's okay for boys to be with boys and girls to be with girls.
I understand the argument that this is not a matter of constitutional protection, therefore it belongs to the states squarely. The science at that point, even though I think it's very scientifically clear, objectively clear, is legally or constitutionally irrelevant in that case, because it's just a matter for states to judge on their own terms. But if he's going farther than necessary to imply that there is some sort of scientific ambiguity, when that's actually irrelevant to the analysis that you're describing, that is disappointing if he did that.
Yeah. So I think that they're going to vote the correct way, but I just wish that for once they were like, this is nonsense. LOL, you lose.
Well, maybe someday we'll get there. We're getting closer. Want to talk a little bit about Scott Adams. Scott Adams, of course, cartoonist, streamer, creator of the Dilbert comic strip, passed away yesterday at the age of 68. He had been battling prostate cancer through the last year. And Scott Adams, of course, had many professional hits over his life for his outspoken Trump support, and then some of his comments on preferring to remain separated from KTLA Americans. He referred to the tweet too harshly. That was in 2023. He was responding on his stream to a poll from the year prior, or some kind of recent poll, where 26% of black respondents disagreed with the statement. 21% were not sure about the statement, "It's okay to be white." And his prescription for that situation was, in kinder terms, I would prefer to be separated from people who believe such things, that it's not okay to be white. And in the context of this poll, are of a certain African-American demographic. That's what he said. He actually said, stay the hell away from black people. Just get the fuck away, is what Scott Adams said. And he took a lot of hit for that. The comments caused several papers, including there was the LA Times, the Washington Post, USA Today. They all dropped Dilbert. So that was a professional problem for Scott Adams. But of course, he went on to self-publish Dilbert after that, and he'd still been active on his stream and still been publicly present right up until his death. Now, personally, I wasn't a close follower of Scott's. Sorry, I got the ad from the article here. I wasn't a close follower of Scott's, but of course, we're fellow travelers in this arena, and a couple things I admire and respect about him greatly. Number one, he was not afraid to lose what he built. He built something incredibly successful, and he still went out there and he said what he believed, and he wasn't afraid to risk it. And he did risk it, and I think he still lived a perfectly great life despite the attempts to take him down. He didn't surrender to the mob in the interest of trying to protect himself or protect his business or protect the things that he had to protect. He spoke his mind up until the very end. And number two, he successfully built an audience with little more than his mind. I would never accuse Scott of having a duct tape production. But I would say that Coffee with Scott Adams, it was a great no-nonsense production. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't trying too hard. It was really just a man in his mind. And he built a very successful show. He built a healthy audience with just that. And Scott really demonstrated that if you're just a guy with a mic and an internet connection better than mine that doesn't cut out tonight, and you've got something compelling to say, you can really succeed in informing and inspiring others. And I appreciate that from him, and God bless him for that. He was a great success in this arena. I will always have respect for people's success like that. And before I get your thoughts, Robert, I wanted to mention his parting message here, because Scott saved his most important message for last. Before his death, he apparently wrote a written message that he wanted delivered to his listeners. And so his ex-wife went on his stream yesterday to deliver those words. And with his parting words, Scott says that despite his life of skepticism or even rejection, he accepts Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, and he hopes it's not too late to be allowed into the kingdom.
He has a final message that he wanted to say. If you are reading this, things did not go well for me. I have a few things to say before I go. My body failed before my brain. I am of sound mind as I write this January 1st, 2026. Many of my Christian friends have asked me to find Jesus before I go. I'm not a believer, but I have to admit the risk-reward calculation for doing so looks so attractive to me. So here I go. I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior and look forward to spending an eternity with him. The part about me not being a believer should be quite quickly resolved if I wake up in heaven. I won't need any more convincing than that. I hope I'm still qualified for entry.
Well, God bless him. Does the last second ticket count, Robert?
100% yes. Only God knows his heart, so I'm not going to make a judgment about his soul. But what a beautiful way to go. And at least in my opinion, I think when you look at the Bible, people trusted Jesus because they were desperate, and there was nothing wrong with that. C.S. Lewis also writes about this. Like, the idea that we have to love God because of some altruistic desire is absolutely wrong. Like, it's totally fine to love God because we're desperate. People would come to Jesus that way and say, what must I do to be saved? And so if his thought was, Lord Jesus, I trust you. I've got no other way out. Fine. Praise be to God. And I hope we see him in heaven.
Well, he's not going to get away with it that easily, Robert. At least not with the obituaries, or the journalists aren't going to let him get away with that easily. People Magazine. Scott Adams, disgraced Dilbert creator, dies at 68. So everything he did in his life, secondary to the fact that I guess he once had an edgy racial opinion. So he's disgraced. The Boston Globe. Scott Adams, the creator of satirical comic strip Dilbert, who veered into racist far right commentary, has died. And speaking of the need for helicopter rides, Robert, if you take a trip back in time, here's how the Boston Globe eulogized famous commies. Venezuela's Hugo Chavez. Oh, he just dies after a struggle with cancer, which could have been said for Scott as well. But of course, he was racist and far right. You have, here we go. Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro, just an icon who shook Cuba and the world. So, you could be an actual communist thug who's responsible for the death and suffering of God knows how many people. But if you once had an edgy opinion about a poll that says, I don't know, maybe hating people based on race is bad, you're disgraced. You're far right. You're racist. Everything else you did is secondary to the fact that you had an unacceptable viewpoint. Helicopter rides for journalists, Robert. Not just commies, but their journalist friends, too. It's the only way out.
In that article, they forgot to add and Trudeau's mom.
Yes. He definitely shook Trudeau's mom. Yeah, you're right. Okay. It is a little past the top of the hour. I got two other things I want to talk about quickly. We'll get to the callers. I'll hurry here because I don't want to make you guys wait. But this one was sent to me by, this story was sent to me by a friend of the show, Long Dong John. And really, it's not that interesting other than just some phrasing and some of the news coverage. But among the many reforms at Health and Human Services under RFK Jr., the food pyramid has been restructured. As you can see, it's kind of inverted. This, of course, is the government's guidance for your daily diet. The new guidelines were unveiled last week. The pyramid is inverted, or at least something of an inversion of what it used to be. Grains, they're still on the bottom, but they're no longer the big portion. Instead, they're a very small portion, and the pyramid emphasizes animal proteins and fruits and vegetables. And for some reason, this is controversial, but the headline in the New York Times, or at least one of the opinion pieces in the New York Times about it, I think is the funniest, and Long Dong John thought so too, so he sent it to me. The new food pyramid brought to you by Big Meat.
That's a big game, man.
RFK has been, he's sold out to the corporate meat industry, or Big Meat. He's a slave to Big Meat. RFK.
I can only assume they mean Grinder. Like now Grinder is setting our dietary restriction or whatever.
They had to know what they were doing when they wrote this headline. Brought to you by Big Meat. Oh my God. Okay. Well, this is better than the headlines about Castro or Chavez, so I'll give them that. Lastly, I got to talk about it before we finish up with the news talk here, but I'm sure you saw Trump giving a guy the finger.
I only saw it mentioned. I have not seen the picture.
Okay, so you've not seen the video. Okay. It's not just Big Meat that is obscene at the White House. It's also Trump and his finger movements lately. Yesterday, Trump was at the Ford plant in Michigan. He was taking a tour, and some guy heckled him, calling him a pedophile protector.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
And in response to that heckling, Trump gave the guy a presidential finger.
He has a final
Whoops, wrong one. Try this. He's saying F you.
Jeez.
I don't think I've ever seen a president give a guy a finger from on high like that. But anyway.
I mean, it's kind of refreshing. I'm not even mad about it. What can I say?
Well, the heckler is a Ford worker named TJ Sabula. He's now been suspended from the job because you can't. I mean, listen, I want as much transparency on the Epstein files as anybody, but I understand why Ford might not like you yelling at a guest at the plant about being a pedophile protector. So he's been suspended from work. However, he has a GoFundMe. He doesn't need to go back to work at Ford. He has a GoFundMe for $500,000. Okay. So again, times get tough. Okay. Call a Somali the N-word. I guess call Trump a pedophile protector. You'll be taken care of that way. Or you can go full Renee and you can get shot in the face by an ICE agent. You won't be around to enjoy the money, but you can leave a legacy for your family. There's always options if a tough economy is weighing you down. You always have a path to prosperity. So just consider your options before you get too upset about it.
I'm living life the wrong way. Here, Matt, I'm sorry to do this to you. I have to call you something awful like a pedophile protector or whatever. My GoFundMe, it will be up in an hour.
Yeah,
please, people.
It's amazing the amount of money people are making on GoFundMe for, frankly, ridiculous reasons. Now, I understand. I get why the Shiloh Hendrickses of the world have made a lot of. It's because there's an attempt to destroy their lives. Mm-hmm. I guess this is a mirror reflection of that.
But this guy will only be praised. No. Shiloh earned it. Like, she earned it. This is different. This guy.
Just because she was more brave? Is that what you're saying?
Well, because she will, like, her life will be destroyed. You know, like what she said will destroy her life.
This guy's not just employable. He's probably sought after by many.
100%. And in fact, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but he didn't even lose his job. He was just
He's suspended. So I guess it's under investigation or something. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that it's a union worker and he'll be back at work in a week or whatever. Like, it'll be fine. His life was not destroyed. But again, now I will be looking out for who can I insult in the most outrageous of ways and then cash out.
Yeah, well, I'll have to think of something creative if I decide to retire early. Everybody's taking all the good ones, you know? Pedophile protector at the president, calling Somalis N-words. What's left? I don't have anything. I got to think more creatively if I want to provide well for my children. But we'll think of that another day. Got to move into the calls here. Let's start with RB. I think he's our Eastern European caller, right? RB, are you there? Oh, wait. Hold on. Sorry, RB. I forgot to unmute myself, but you should have me now. Are you there?
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but why do I hear you twice? Robert, do you hear him twice?
It might be me who's causing that problem.
Oh, it's probably through Zoom. Yes.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to change my audio setting and see if it fixes it. And if
they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
1 moment.
Okay. Can you hear yourself twice?
Check.
1, 2, 3.
See, I hear the caller twice. Tell you what, Robert, can you mute yourself in Zoom?
I'll mute him here. Okay.
Check.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Now we're good, but Robert, you can't hear the caller, right?
No, I thought I would hear him through the stream.
But I tell you what, RB, why don't you take your call now, and we'll see if Robert can try to self-diagnose and work his way through it. Sorry about the tech problems here, but what's on your mind?
All right. I've been troubled increasingly, although for some time, about the, I suppose, epistemic divide is what you would call it. It's essentially the phenomenon of, two people watching the same movie or like looking at the same film, but watching two different movies.
Mm-hmm.
Wherein the other side, like every time there's an event that there's, you can recognize this, there's a current thing. There's always a current thing that's happening. Like most recently, you could say it's the shooting of the woman, right? But this has been going on in these sort of waves for at least 15 years. The earliest, these events, I suppose I can call them epistemic sieves or filters, wherein two groups are always created on each side of the issue, right? And there seems to be no bridging, like the two groups, as if they are watching like two different, like completely different things, wherein you cannot reach to a compromise, you cannot really settle a dispute because the facts are fundamentally not agreed upon, as if they're like the two groups are existing out of phase, like you're living in different realities. And every time one of these events occurs, like more people are sifted through the sieve into one of the two piles, right? And it's eliminating the center basically, and in the end, all you have left are these like at the end of the process, I suppose, but I'm pretty sure we're mostly already there. You have these two groups. They cannot really agree on anything, and they will always have like antagonistic views. Where I suppose the shooting of the woman is the prime example, because you can get stuff like, I don't know, Brian Krasenstein is writing that, okay, even now that we have the medical report that the ICE agent was hit, actually it was just hemorrhoids.
And right, they said he had internal bleeding, right? That came out today.
Yeah. And the counter cope from the other side, from the other group, is that, oh, it was just hemorrhoids, or alternatively that it was the recoil from the gun.
Internal bleeding from a Glock recoil. Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because what matters is the directionality of the argument, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to default to the perspective of, well, our side is right and they're just wrong. However, our side is right and they're just wrong. But what I mean by that is, okay, is there a segment of the ideological right that refuses to even consider another perspective and refuses evidence that is contrary to their preconceptions? Yeah, that exists. I just don't think it exists on the scale that it exists on the progressive left, where it is ideology over everything, where the entire worldview is unfalsifiable. And if someone wanted to talk to me about what happened with that ICE agent, could there be small points of concession I could make about his conduct? Like, yeah, okay. Could he have avoided that? Could he have gotten through that situation without killing her? Probably. That doesn't mean that the shooting was unjustified, by the way, but with the benefit of hindsight and not having to make a snap judgment in the moment, yeah, you probably didn't have to shoot her to make sure there wasn't a threat to others. That doesn't mean that I think that the shooting was unjustified. I think it was a justified deployment of force because she presented lethal force. But I could entertain a conversation about that. You want to talk about how unprofessional he was by calling her a fucking bitch or something. But yeah, we can talk about these things. It's not as though the man, he's a man like anybody else. There are things about it that you can nitpick and say he didn't do well here or there, but it's fundamentally a question about, was lethal force presented or not? And I'm with you that the reason I say that there's a complete immunity or refusal of objective evidence is we saw the officer's perspective from his phone that was released on Friday. And I thought that would kind of be the end of it, or at least I hoped, because it really shows them agitating and being aggressive and bringing this fate upon themselves. And instead, we're getting the sort of response that you're talking about. Oh, if anything, this is exonerating for Renee Good. She was just saying, I'm not even mad at you, and politely trying to go around. It is seemingly impenetrable. And I know it's easy to say, like, we don't do this on our side. We do, I get, but I don't see these impenetrable barriers against evidence in this way. So I don't know what to do about it other than just stay committed to the truth. That's all anybody can do.
Yeah, my point ultimately is that if the other side of the sieve, it will just come up with these like completely bizarre counterfactuals or factuals that are not really observable from my side or from the other side, then, you know, this political system of liberalism that is supposed to, through some kind of neutral institution, mediate differences and come to a amicable compromise, like, is fundamentally unworkable. How can you cannot do it? You cannot function. If you cannot fundamentally agree on reality, on
right.
Like
if there's no shared base, and that's supposed to be a commitment to our politically, that's supposed to be a commitment to our constitutional system, even if we have different lifestyles or different views outside of that. If there's no shared base, then I don't know how you build a country without some sort of shared foundation. And yeah, I think we're realizing that right now. We don't have anything in common with the people who are captured by this ideological insanity. And that paints a bleak picture for the future, but I think it's the truth.
Yeah. Bleak stuff, I suppose. So
all right. Well,
more,
thank you for the black pills from 4 a.m. in Serbia or whatever it is. I forget.
But Slovakia, but close enough.
Whatever those countries are. Yeah.
We didn't get by now just yet.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right.
Did you get your tech resolved?
Yeah, I did. I fixed it early on, so I heard most of what he said.
Okay.
Man, I've been thinking about that a lot as well. Like the mess this is creating, because it is one thing to agree on the facts and disagree on the interpretation. It is a different thing to disagree on the facts. And so, because they're saying, no, he was not struck. Although now, again, mainstream media is putting out there that they've confirmed with 3 sources. He has internal bleeding or whatever. I mean, he obviously was struck. And so we can't even have a conversation about was it justified, was it not, because we literally believe that different things happened. And then as this progresses, because this is just one little story, but then the next story, and then the next story, and then the next story. So then when you talk to somebody who's across the political aisle, they believe in a completely different reality. Like they really believe different things have happened. And so there is no conversation to be had. Like this is a recipe for violence.
The thing that, I wouldn't dispute that point at all. And the thing that's really worrisome about it is we're not in an era, say like 1900, where we all get our feed of the news from, say, a print newspaper that maybe gets to us a few days after the events happened, and we don't see these things firsthand. It's delivered to us by necessity through someone else's account. We live in an era where, for the most part, these events are viewable directly to us, or at least the video is. So it's almost as good as being there firsthand. And yet it seems like we have less agreement than ever. Maybe it's just because we all had to go through the filter of somebody else we all agreed in the past because that's all we had. But it is baffling. I feel stupid for feeling surprised by these things. But when that video came out, I thought, okay, they're going to have to concede some points on this. And of course not. Of course, it doesn't show what it shows. It shows what they want it to show. And it'll be twisted in any number of ways to suggest you're not actually seeing what you're seeing. And it's like I was talking about it on Sunday, Robert. They're stuck on this point of, oh, she was nice to him. She said, I'm not even mad at you, dude. It was clearly mockery. I'm not even mad at you, dude. It was mocking him. And of course, mockery doesn't mean you deserve to get shot. But can we cut the crap that she was trying to be very nice and accommodating to him? That's not what she's saying. You can tell by the tone in her voice and the smug look on her face. And we're supposed to pretend that's not what we're seeing. And by the way, my interpretation of the look on her face doesn't matter. Her foot on the gas pedal matters. But even that is like, she was just trying to drive around. Not once in my life of driving through parking lots, even in the worst traffic rage of my life, or whenever I've been most frustrated driving, have I ever had a pedestrian in close proximity to my vehicle and I hit the gas hard enough to start the tires spinning on the pavement in that way.
Yeah.
That's not normal behavior.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. The shooting was justified. I 100% agree. But we are witnessing, I'm going to phrase it this way, and I'll explain what I mean, but we are witnessing the end of a Christian society. And what I mean by that is, there's been no time in history when everyone was a Christian or whatever, but we all shared certain values. And one of the key values was a commitment to truth. Essentially, that there is a reality outside of us that really is objective. It either is or is not. And when we do something evil, we're not changing reality. We're just doing something that's wrong. Like, what I mean by that is, if I go and cheat on my wife or whatever, I really did cheat on her. I just chose to do something that was wrong. But I would, in a Christian society, you would never take the approach of like, no, I didn't really.
Because if we're going to change the definition of the word cheat.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we know that there's no trick to be played because the ultimate standard is God. So like, yes. I know that, I can change the definition of cheat or marriage or wife or whatever, but like, I know that I'm not fooling the one that matters. But now that there is no standard, then sure, like, let's just let's just kind of change the standard, because truth no longer matters, and this can only result in violence.
And I think that's the biggest distinction. And I in no way say this to minimize commitment to the teachings of Christ. What I mean is, the fundamental question is, do we live in a world where the rules are authored by us or authored by something or somebody else? I ask that in the general sense. Of course,
Yeah.
I say that in the context of being a person who practices following Jesus specifically. But that's the biggest distinction, is not just what are the standards that pre-exist me and that define the world that I operate in. Do those standards even exist, or do we write the rules ourselves? You want to talk about what's causing a society to fall apart in the way you're describing. It's that. It's, what are the rules? They're just, things we write about the world ourselves because we think they're good or we think that they're nice, but they're not really part of any objective framework outside of us. We made the rules so we can change the rules whenever we want.
Yeah.
And so I think you're spot on. But let's talk to Kevin. Kevin, are you there?
Yeah, hey, Matt, Robert, how you guys doing?
We are well. What's on your mind?
Couple things. I got two things for you. First of all, I'd like to air a grievance.
Oh, no. What is it?
It's frustrating because you never make this a central thesis or anything like that, but you also never miss a chance to take a swipe at my people.
Who are your people?
It's usually, I'll get to that. It's usually in the context
Cyclists?
of a certain black and white movie you do not care for. You often discourage saying you do not believe anyone truly likes it.
Are you a cane licker?
No, I'm not. Let me get to it. Just like you don't actually believe that anyone truly enjoys IPAs.
Nobody. Yeah, exactly. Hey,
Sarah?
bro, you want to come over and drink an IPA and watch Citizen Kane? I love Orson Welles. That's not a real person. Is this what you're saying?
I guess I'm half a real person. I love IPAs, dude. I have a kegerator in my basement, and there's IPA always on tap. I'm drinking an IPA as we speak. And so I guess my question, if I get to it, is just how dare you?
I don't want to hear any more of these lies.
How dare I?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just had a call about the importance of being able to see situations from another's perspective. So fine, I'll believe you that you enjoy a nice skunky IPA that tastes like someone dipped a pine cone in a bucket of urine that's been sitting in the sun all day while you're watching century-old black and white movies. I'll believe you that that's what you do on a normal weekend.
I don't watch the Orson Welles movies. I watch It's a Wonderful Life every Christmas, and that is the extent.
Well, I'm confused though. What movie are you defending? Because I thought you were talking about Citizen Kane.
Sir. I'm not defending black and white movies. I'm not defending any movie. I'm defending the honor of IPAs strictly.
Oh, just IPAs.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I haven't ripped on IPAs for a long time, but you're right. Like I remain an opponent. Well, actually, here's the thing about IPAs. It's not. Have I had an IPA that is occasionally drinkable? Sure. However, there's a certain trendiness to them that I just don't buy. Like people buy them because they think it's someone else's idea of a good or sophisticated or cultured beer. So I get frustrated as an appreciator of certain types of craft beer to go to any given gas station or grocery store beer aisle, and all of it is nothing but this IPA nonsense. And then maybe you have a small selection of other things that are much more fun and interesting.
Okay, that's fair. As an IPA appreciator who is married to a stout aficionado, I can get on with that.
All right.
Okay, on to the more, that's not really serious, but more fun topics.
Your time has expired. You used it on IPA defense. All right, what do you got? I'll give you last time.
All right, real quick. Do you want theological or literary? I'll give you a choice.
There's a lot of theological themes tonight, so let's stick with that. Let's go theological.
All right, cool. Yeah, if it's with Robert being on everything, like, do you have a favorite argument for the existence of God?
A favorite argument for the existence of God? I think it's
apologetics is every Christian's responsibility, Matt.
I think it's probably what Robert and I were just discussing. That is to say, everybody actually knows there is a moral framework to the world. You can feel it when you violate it. At least pretty much everybody of sound mind can. You know when you've done something wrong. There's something in you that tells you that. And there's some sort of structure outside of us that tells you that. what is that thing? Who gave rise to that thing? What created that thing? It's not something we all just voted on one day or we decided or is convenient for us. I've heard the arguments that it's even biologically advantageous to believe in moral rules because it contributes to our survival. I don't buy any of that stuff because there's all sorts of immoral stuff that I could do that contribute to my success or survival, but I still feel bad about them.
Right.
I don't buy the pure biological argument for the thing called a conscience. I think that there is a framework of rules to this world. Something gave rise to those rules. Those rules exist before us, above us in the way that Robert was describing. And that's really what brought me to faith and to accepting Jesus and trying to get closer to God and all this. I know that that structure is real, even if sometimes the specifics in that puzzle are a little bit fuzzy to me. That's it for me. Like the rules of the world are a real thing. Someone made those.
Yeah.
Who's that person?
100%. That's actually what I was expecting, because without saying it, you've basically been stumping for the moral argument as long as you've been talking about your faith journey. So that's not surprising.
Can I, if you're capable of answering the question yourself briefly, can I throw it back at you before you're out of here?
Yeah. So my favorite are probably like the fine tuning and the cosmological. Or is it cosmological? It's basically the arguments that this planet is way too hospitable to life for it to have been happened by pure chance. So many things had to happen exactly just right for us to exist, that the only alternative to make it mathematically possible is to believe in multiverse theory, which takes every bit as much faith as it does to believe in a creator. I mean, take just for example, the fact that solar eclipses happen, that the moon just happens to be the correct size and distance from the sun to perfectly block it out every so often and give us that magnificent spectacle. And you're going to tell me that just accidentally happened? And that's just like the first thing. The fact that gravity exists is a total freak accident of nature if God doesn't exist. So
a whole lot of coincidences.
That's my favorite. Yeah, too many, one might say.
Robert, I don't know that I've ever asked you that question. Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, so I think it kind of depends on kind of the audience, or if it's like kind of my personal argument, or if I'm sharing with someone else. Matt, the one that you prefer seems to be the most preferred among people, the most like impactful, right? You could phrase it with the three premises. If God does not exist, then there are no objective moral values. There are objective moral values, therefore God exists.
Yeah, that's a good way to summarize it.
You can't reason your way to why murder is wrong if there's no God.
So very, very, very effective when you're talking to people. My personal favorite, I think it would be, there's probably two of them. The cosmological argument, which would go, anything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe had a beginning.
The unmoved mover.
Therefore the universe has a cause. Because the second premise, the universe had a beginning. It delves deeply into science, and I think that also has an impact. Like, I don't think people realize that science points to, I'm not going to say proves, that's too strong of a statement, but it really points to a beginning of the universe. The science is not on the side of the atheist. So very, very powerful argument. And then the other one I'll mention briefly is the contingency argument, which is what you're mentioning, this idea of the unmoved mover. It seems airtight, that essentially, again, I'll just summarize it, but not all things can be contingent on something else infinitely. You do need kind of a beginning to things, a cause that is necessary, which is kind of a complicated
It's just
concept.
elephants all the way down.
Yep.
Well, we will save the question of whether IPAs are allowed in God's kingdom for another day, but you're welcome to call in about that next time, Kevin. I appreciate your call.
All right. Thanks for taking my call, guys.
Enjoy your crappy beer. Now get out of here.
Oh, I just had to get a final sweat.
I just kicked him out. Can I just say on the IPAs, look, I did go through that phase in which I liked them, quote unquote. I grew out of it. Sorry, Kevin. But the problem is they started going with like twice as hoppy and like 3 times as hoppy. And then it's just like hops with some water or whatever. And they're like, here, drink this. It's delicious. It's like, I feel like we're taking this a bit far, guys.
Half of them taste like I'm licking one of those evergreen air fresheners in a car. I guess I don't know if I've ever licked one of those, but if I did, I imagine it would taste like an IPA. I don't know.
Let me say, so people can make fun of me. I'll throw this out there. I actually drink cider instead of beer. And I've been doing that since before it was cool. I'm just
Cider has had a big push in recent years. And I like cider too. For me, it's more, I don't like cider in the summer. It's like kind of a winter thing, but I do fancy a cider. They're pretty good. So I no judgment on that. Anyway, all right, let's talk to Zero Snark 30. Zero Snark, are you there?
Yes, I am. It's good to be
What's on
back
your mind?
Yeah, I'm gonna propose a question, and then I'll answer my own question.
Okay.
Based on it's going to be a bit of a broader topic of how the left manipulates language to just confuse us and try to make us lose track of what's real. Because the purpose of language is for us to understand reality and give it a name, so we have a shortcut to understand reality again when we encounter it. So, I despise socialism, but I reject the label of capitalist. And you might think, well, isn't a capitalist someone who engages in and observes capitalism? But isn't it interesting that the word capitalist is older than the word capitalism? Why is that a thing? How can you be a capitalist if capitalism hasn't been coined yet? Well, turns out a capitalist was simply a person who owned capital. The option, the term of capitalism being a way of life in some way wasn't coined yet. It was coined a century after the word capitalist was by a French socialist, basically a proto-commie politician, saying, I'm coining capitalism as to, say, an appropriation of capital by some to the exclusion of others. And suddenly you have a problem. The word capitalism itself was coined by communists just to label the people we want to kill. So,
I didn't know that. I'll take your word for it. I've never heard that history of the term.
So I want to encourage this. I want to see if this is a worthy cause to spread amongst people who share my values of whenever you say, I believe in capitalism, I defend capitalism. Well, hold on. You're accepting a position that's already been framed by the people who want to just kill all the people that they call capitalists. So why are you playing that game?
Yeah, I mean, I guess both things can be true. That is to say, there are important moral principles within the concept of capitalism when we think about it, not in a smearing or defamatory way like that. But I'll take your point that a lot of the communist playbook, as we watch now, I don't know if capitalist is used in that way, but what do we watch right now? Assign people names that can be used to justify the denial of their basic humanity. Look what's happened with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was straight up murdered on public display. And a lot of the response is assigning him names in an attempt to minimize or even justify the murder. Oh, well, he was racist. Oh, well, he was Nazi adjacent, or he was this, or he was that. And if he was this or that, it's like, yeah, it's murder, I guess, but like, are we supposed to be sad about it? Is it really that bad? Maybe it's actually good to the most deranged people there. So I guess what I'm saying is both things can kind of be true. Would you agree with that? When I say both things, I mean that there are valid things the term capitalist describes, but also words have a smearing utility for the left in the way you're describing too. I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
Right. I see that's the exact same phenomenon. Exactly. Like the left sure loves to just invent some brand new term, loves to bend rules and just invent a brand new thing. Like, I don't know, when I heard Christian nationalism, I thought you just took two words that scared you and you turned it into a smear.
You know, that it's true. I think that term I don't know that I heard someone assign that term to themselves to accurately describe their own worldview. Like I only hear that one in that kind of character attack way. You're right.
Yeah, it's so tempting. We want to hear new ways to describe things, new words, and think, oh, I like new descriptions, because in the book of Genesis, what was the first job given to Adam? Go out into the world, observe reality, and give it names. That's a thing we like to do as people.
Yeah.
But it's a shame to see leftist temperament people warp that and use that desire for evil.
Well, I appreciate your call. Thank you for the thoughts. And have a great night.
Have a good night.
Robert, you have thoughts on that? The use of name calling to deny the humanity of your enemies? I mean, I don't know if I deny people's humanity, but I name call. I do it too. I'm not saying I'm innocent of that charge at times.
No, but I think he means not just like calling someone a retard or whatever. It's like the idea of the left really is particularly good at creating terms or popularizing terms that solidify an idea even in the mind of the normies. Like what we were discussing earlier about sex assigned at birth. Now, like even normies are using that language, and so the left wins because they control the language, and it is maddening to see. So I agree with the caller. It bothers me. I don't know why the right is not better at it. I think because they're trying to play kind of by the rules. But man. Yeah, the left is so good at it.
Thank you to our callers tonight. That'll be it on live calls. I do have one voicemail. I'll give a quick refresh here. And as far as voicemails and emails, I'm going to get into those momentarily. But I know on Wednesday, I've been making chatters wait so long. Oh, you know what? I think because if we had any Rumble chats, I think they got messed up by the interruption of the stream earlier, because now my Rumble feed is saying the stream is over. So if I had any Rumble chatters, my apology. I might... I don't know if I'll actually get a feed of your chats tonight. So if there is a Rumble chat and I missed you, you can send me an email and I will refund your chat if you'd like that to happen. My apology. Tim, I don't know if you have a way to see the chats, but if you do, if there are any Rumble chats that I missed, if you have a way to get them to me, that would be much appreciated. But before I get into the voicemail and some emails, I want to catch up with super chatters because I don't want them to wait the whole show. But Joshy Boy says, maybe Renee and Becca are albino Somalis because this reeks of fraud. Their marriage. Well, they might have consulted with the Leering Center on their marriage certificate or something like that. I don't know. Taker 610, we went from everyone deserves due process, citizen or not, to ICE agent murders woman without any charges or court proceedings whatsoever. Yeah, well, exactly. Speaking of smears, he's an ICE agent. That's a smear. That means you're not entitled to the rights that others are. You are to be defamed. It is upsetting to see it from politicians. I know that like the average person on the streets could be like, that guy's a murderer, and it's their stupid opinion. But you've got a lot of politicians out there using the word murder, which of course is a technical legal term, the unjustified killing of a person with some sort of intent behind it. We don't know that that's whatever you think of what happened there. Even if I think the killing was unjustified, the idea that guy went there with some sort of intent to kill her without justification is preposterous. Why did he wait until she hit the gas before he pulled the trigger if his intent was to murder her this whole time? It is for politicians to be defaming that guy in this way, I think is particularly frustrating, even if the average person on the street might do that all the time.
I agree. I think that one of the solutions to the problem that the first caller brought up, this idea of the two realities, is the Supreme Court, I think, should modify the standard for defamation, particularly of public figures. Essentially, we need to be able to hold media to account.
Loosen up, make it easier to bring defamation claims against.
Absolutely.
I'm my gut reaction, my knee jerk is skeptical because, of course, I want to protect the rights to say all sorts of terrible things about politicians. They deserve it. But there is something to just outright reckless criminal accusations in that way too. And that's what we're talking about here. So I'd listen to the argument. Maybe we can hash it out another time. Tortuga, 2020 through 2024, you must wear a mask. No, 2 masks. Otherwise you're a bad person and you want to end grandma. 2026, ICE is wearing masks, which is illegal, and they are bad people. And they want to end grandma. Well, yeah, masks are on a bizarre run the last half decade or so. That was the weird twist in 2020. It's like, I just remember thinking of all the things that made me feel like a crazy person. Masks in public were the universal designation of criminal intent. Like if you're out there wearing a mask you're doing something shady. What are you, robbing a bank? What are you, a psycho? And then it was completely shifted the other way, where a mask is a universal signifier of being a good guy. And anyone not wearing a mask was actually the would-be bank robber or the bad guy of some kind. That was one of the craziest twists. And it just, man, so many things about that era just messed with my mind. And I was sheltered from it. A lot of you guys were way more in it in your office places or your schools. I only saw it when I went to the gas station or the grocery store. It made me feel like I'd lost my mind. But Yeah, we're back to masks are bad again.
I mean, I guess at least that's good, right? Yeah, and I think, you know, the deal about masks in 2020, it was so obviously political because no one had standards for what the mask should be made out of. It was just like,
it was made
cover your face. That's really all it meant. Like, it could be with freaking pantyhose or an N95. Like,
people legitimately wore women's underwear out there to make a joke of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't matter, which tells me it wasn't medical.
Injured Guardian, pre-exist is an intransitive verb. Robert, back me up here. Now, I tend to be pretty grammatically informed, and I like the rules of grammar. I'm shamed to have a foreigner remind me, what are transitive and intransitive verbs? I actually don't know off the top of my head.
I am also quite ashamed to say. And
oh my God.
I like study this stuff, but I believe whoever's super chatting this.
Okay.
Now, this is in what context?
Transitive. Okay, let me read the definition quick. A transitive verb is an action verb that requires a direct object to complete its meaning, transferring the action to the subject of the object. She kicked the ball. But kicked could be both transitive and intransitive, could it not? It still makes sense to say she kicked without clarifying what was kicked. Now I'm confused. Anyway, here's what he says. We should all enjoy IPAs, income producing assets. Scripture praises wise investing. I just don't know what the grammar lesson is here. Pre-exist is an intransitive verb, Robert. Back me up here. Are you saying Robert should? So one of us said pre-exist. Maybe I did in the context of the talk about God there. But I assume because of its intransitive verb status, it changes the grammatical requirements of the sentence structure in which it is included.
It could be. He's going to have to remind me of the point. But I mean, I'm sure he's right. I'm just missing it. I'm like not getting exactly what distinction he's trying to draw. So I apologize there to your super chatter.
Tim says, saw one guy rage about internal bleeding because he said the car was traveling too slow. Clearly, he's never seen how much damage cars can cause in low-speed accidents. Also, did you see the video of the wife screaming, "Why are you using real bullets?" I didn't actually have the heart to watch a lot of the video of Becca Good, the quote-unquote wife. We don't know if she's actually a wife or not. But I know there's video out there of her just sobbing, saying it's all her fault, and as much as I agree with that statement that this is the fault of you two, I don't have an appetite to watch someone sobbing over watching their loved one get shot in the face. So I actually have not seen those videos, and I'm not sure what she had to say on the scene there. But yeah, like could you plausibly suffer internal bleeding from a low speed vehicle collision with your body? Yeah, I can't tell you without seeing the guy's medical records whether it was caused by the car or not, but it doesn't seem like an impossible claim to me, given the video evidence of what happened.
Yeah, and also I think we need to, I mean, you know, when we consider where the information is coming from, meaning that it's coming from mainstream media that has no motivation to publish this information unless it's true, and they're claiming that they confirmed it with 3 different sources. I mean, there's simply no reason to doubt that information. No good reason to doubt it.
Long Dong John, Matt and I once made a New Year's resolution. He wanted to lose weight and get jacked. So I threw out all his seed oils and refined carbs and filled his mouth with Big Meat.
That's a big game, man.
Well, Big Meat has taken over. RFK commands it. And thank you for the tip on that. Well, I shouldn't say thank you for the tip in this context, but thank you for the link to that story. I found it very entertaining. All right, let's get back into, I'll come back to chats.
I'll have to just circle back with you
at the end of the show if we have more chats, but let's get back into I have a voicemail in terms of calls here. Tim, is that you? Yeah.
Yeah. So just before you get onto that, I didn't have the Rumble up. So if there were any chats, I haven't grabbed them. Okay. I think I found where Rumble is keeping them permanently now though. So if you want
I'm told that's a thing. I'm going to maybe if I have time at the end of the show, I'll come back to that. I hesitate to try to diagnose a problem live on air because that
it's about 10 seconds, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at the end of the show, when you do chats, I can try and direct you to it. It take about 10 seconds.
I assume it's like in Rumble's system if I'm logged into my account. I can try to take a look, but I won't spend a ton of time on it. But I will try to take a look before we're out here. And if I miss anyone's Rumble chat, again, you can just email me and I'll give you a refund if you'd like a refund. But,
I'll jump back in at the end of the show and direct you because, like I said, it's like 3 steps. It's pretty easy.
All right. Well, let's, if I forget during the last segment of chat, just hop in the Discord and we'll try to figure it out.
No worries.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
Duct tape all over the place. It's a disgrace.
I have one voicemail here, and it's from Kaiser in Gilroy, and it is about what to do with these rabid progressive women.
Hey, Matt, and whoever's riding shotgun tonight. If anyone in this audience is suffering from fatigue of the white progressive woman, my patience has been drained by this group of people a long time ago. The past 5 years, to say the least. These so-called moral crusaders are the reason the 19th Amendment needs to be repealed. These PC thugs have done enough damage with their grandstanding about protecting illegal immigrants, alphabet rights, whatever wave of feminism we're on, current things they're either supporting or angry about, and pushing their own religious bullshit on people who don't care. All these white progressive women need to delete their social media. These women need to decide what they truly want to do in their life. Be a parent or an activist. It's the equivalent of either serving God or money. They can't do both. Also, please stop getting your own children involved as you take them to pride parades, another masturbatory political rally that you don't know what it's about, or trying to stop ICE. Thanks for your time, and give my regards to LaDonna.
The American people are tired of women.
It's not against the law, ho. Fuck you.
LaDonna's the one exception. Nobody's tired of LaDonna. More LaDonna. She can help us solve these problems. But what you said there, they need to decide what they want to do with their life. Exactly. Unfortunately for many, it may be too late. As we were talking about earlier with that Minneapolis woman seeking an ICE date for fucking shit up with ICE, we are watching the developing consequences of propaganda on a generation of women. And they were taught to reject tradition. The patriarchy wants, the patriarchy just wants you to be a baby factory. You shouldn't do that. You should seek a career. You should become an activist who has a big impact on social policy and all this. You should be a champion of change instead of building a household with a loving husband. The problem here, of course, is that there is one power that makes women very special, the thing they can do that men can't, and that is they can create new life. And so by rejecting that one special power, inevitably you realize, wow, nothing I do is actually nearly as cool as that. For all the framing that men hate women, they just want them to be baby factories. No, you know what? That what you call baby factory, that's actually pretty cool and very important to the survival of the species. And by the way, just in a personal context, gives a lot of meaning to my life as a husband and a father. It's not just about what's good for my wife. It's about what's good for the two of us, in addition to what's good for society and the future of humanity as a whole. When you reject that special power, you get disappointed with everything you try to substitute for it. Everything becomes pointless by comparison. And unfortunately for a lot of these women, that power expires, and it expires relatively early when you're relatively young. And then you hit this wall and you realize, oh crap, that special power I had, the thing that probably would have provided me with the most fulfillment in my life, I missed that window. Now I have two options. I can either acknowledge to myself that I've been had, that I've been living a lie, that I was duped out of enjoying the greatest opportunity of my life, or I can take the easy path and I can double down and I can get even more rabid in my meaningful activism and my saving of the world. And I think that's what we're watching right now, is a lot of women coming up against that wall, knowing in their lizard brains that power has been taken from them through the trickery and the propaganda. And instead of confronting the reality of that, they get even more rabid in seeking the meaning somewhere else. They have to. They couldn't have been wrong. They have to. It's just that they're not activisming, speaking of grammatical violations, they're not activisming hard enough. They must activism harder, and they must generate that meaning and fulfillment in places where it is mistaken to search for it. As much as I enjoy mocking these deranged women, they are very dangerous because they're very destructive. But it's also, it is incredibly sad, man. I for watching the joy that is brought to, despite all the many wars in our house every day, and all the many kid freakouts, the joy and meaning that is brought to my life and my wife's life through our children, there's nothing that is a substitute for that. There is nothing that is more meaningful than that. And I feel awful for a generation of women that have been raised to believe something otherwise because they're wrong. They've been raised on a lie, and now they're realizing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I fully agree with you. I like, if I could get in front of a crowd of young people or whatever, I would tell them something along the same lines. Like, look, the biggest lie that has been told to you is that life has no shape. And this is what I mean. Like, picture a page with the connected dots, a kind of typical drawing game. Life does have a shape. Those dots nearly always connect in the shape of marriage and children. And then, of course, grandchildren. And because you have this family you want to support, then the dots will also connect into a job that provides for the family. And of course, I am granting that there's all sorts of tragedies and diseases and things that can prevent life from taking this shape. But for 99% of people, the dots connect to make that shape. And what you have been told since you were born, because you live in this weird modern age, is that actually you can connect the dots to make any shape that you want. And so you start doing that. You think, I can give life whatever meaning I want, so I'm going to connect the dots in any way that I want. And that, for just about everyone, is not going to work out.
Yeah.
And so that is the fundamental myth you need to reject, that life has no shape. Yes, it does. It has a shape that God implemented from the beginning. And if you try to connect the dots in a different way, it will almost surely result in tragedy.
Yeah, defy God and you're going to have a bad time. It doesn't work out well for most.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing we have found out, essentially, not that this is going to be a bit offensive, and I apologize for whoever I'm going to offend.
Stop.
But
What, are you going to say something bad about IPAs?
No, but the sad truth is women are more susceptible to being fooled. It's just the truth.
Yeah. Well, they're more agreeable. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's what we have essentially kind of proven in this modern age, because women have bought into the propaganda much more than men. And you see this in the graphs, how political opinions have shifted and so forth. And mostly it is the women who have moved. The men have mostly remained steady. And so it's hard for me to blame the women, because I do realize that we as a society, we've done it to them. Like, we fool them.
You're exactly right that for as much as I would love to blame women exclusively, the world relies on a proper relationship between men and women to continue the species. And that means that men have to step up too. And if it is true that women are more susceptible to being duped, it means, and if we believe that a proper relationship between men and women is the key to the future, and it is, it means that we as men have a duty to protect women from such dupery, such frauds. And I know it's easier said than done to look like a woman, to look at a situation like that woman in the Minneapolis video and think, oh God, I have to be the one to save her. Hopefully, for us men, it's our job to step up before that full crazy has been realized. Find a nice young woman, save her from that fate, marry her, give her children, stay committed to her, stay committed to that family, build something great for both of you, build the future. That it's on us as men to step up and protect women from that fate. I know there's a lot of crazy out there, and I know I have the luxury of not having to enter that arena at this stage in my life, and God willing, I'll never have to again, because I don't think all women are kind of crazy. I don't think my wife is going to go that crazy. I hope not. But us men have you take all these premises to be true. Men have a leadership role to prevent that sort of insanity. And we have to do it. We have to take a lead. We have to restore the patriarchy to stop the madness and save the world. It's coming. I would say to, and I know, again, it's easier said than done for a guy who's out of the game. I understand why guys go the MGTOW route and just opt out and like, I'm not dealing with women. They're all crazy. I get that. I understand why the frustration would just cause you to resign in that way. But I hope I hope men don't succumb to that. I hope they remain committed to their mission, their purpose. We still have to build family. And if women could be persuaded to believe all the nonsense that they believe now, there has to be a path to reverse persuasion back toward the truth, and we have to do that. Mm-hmm. But let's pull up emails here. Oh, I should have reminded everyone too. If you'd like to leave a voicemail or an email for the show, the way to do that is through the contact page on my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. There's a link to the number you call to leave a voicemail, and there's a link or there's an email box where you can type in your email, and we'll respond to those on the show as well. Thanks to Kaiser and Gilroy for the voicemail tonight. But as far as our emails, Ray, he's not racist. He's just Ray, and his last name is Sist. Which translation of the Bible do you prefer to read? Does your local congregation have a preferred version? Personally, I read from the King James Version because it sounds the best, which admittedly is not the most compelling argument. For your first time reading through the Bible, the NJKV, help me out, Robert. NJKV is what?
The New King James Version.
New King James. Okay.
Yeah.
Or is it KJV? Okay, so that's why I was confused. It's JK here, or ESV, which is the English Standard Version.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Might be good options. I know that my church uses the New International Version, the NIV. Mm-hmm. And I would be, if I were to sit here and tell you what is the superior translation, I mean, I'm shooting from the hip. I'm making it up. So luckily, I have Robert here tonight to tell me because Robert loves matters of scriptural translation and all that. What do you think is I suppose it depends for what person too. It doesn't, the best version for you might not be the best version for someone new to the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bible translations, and I'll make this very short. I know not everyone will be interested in this, but Bible translations, they differ in two different ways mostly. One is whether the translation is more word for word, or whether it's more idea for idea. And let me give you an easy example. Let's say that the original phrase is in English and it says, "It is raining cats and dogs outside." Okay. Let's say that I'm translating that into Spanish. Do I translate it word for word? Like, "Está lloviendo perros y gatos afuera," whatever. Or do I translate what it means? Like when I say it in Spanish, do I translate "It is pouring outside"? Okay. When you translate word for word, you are tasking the reader with understanding the idioms. When you translate idea for idea, then you are doing that work for the reader. So naturally, the latter translation will be much easier to read. Now, most translations fall somewhere in the middle in this spectrum. The ESV is closer to the kind of word for word, similar actually to the NKJV. If you want one that is more like idea for idea or thought for thought, then the NIV would be a good option. Personally, I prefer the NET with full notes. It has been a priceless resource. So that's what I read myself.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate your email. Next up is Crackhead McFart Breath number 2. Hey, brother, want to ask you about your views on ganja. You said you regret your vote to legalize weed, saying you didn't like how many shops have popped up. Well, that's the market saying there is a demand for non-big pharma drugs. As for the smell, do you want to make smells illegal? Because the Indian next door making stew might protest that. Plus, pot users like me try to reduce the smell. Also, you talked about your previous pot use and you said it's not for you. I respect that because it is not for everyone. But would you condemn someone for using pot when alcohol is fine and big pharma is rampant? Thanks, your fan, Crackhead. I only tried crack once. I'm not a crackhead. I'm a family man. First of all, if you think that's a gotcha, would I be in favor of banning Indian cooking?
Yes!
Unequivocally. Let's get that the hell out of here. When I lived in my apartment in California and it was full of Indians, and it's like my clothes were just soaked in Indian spices secondhand. It wasn't even the cooking in my apartment. Could never get it out. So yes, all of you smelly people have to get out, you potheads and you Indian cooking people. But on a serious point, you're right that the weed issue and some drug issues are one that is a little bit difficult for me to navigate as a matter of principle versus just knee-jerk reaction, because I would have a hard time giving you an argument for why weed is different from alcohol in terms of how it ought to be regulated. Like, we have regulated liquor stores, and some people consume liquor irresponsibly. Most people don't, but it's still generally legal for the public. The same goes for weed. And that's why I voted to make weed recreationally legal in Montana back in 2020. But do I regret the way that it changed my town a little bit? Yeah. There are weed shops all over. I find it kind of annoying. I think it's changed the character of it's not legal. It's not legal in city limits, but I live out of city limits. And yeah, I don't love that there's a weed shop almost on every block. But I take your point on, perhaps it's still something better than big pharma for people. The problem there, though, is that it's not just medicinal. Like, we've had medicinal weed in Montana since 2004. We made it recreational in 2000. And after 2000, you just see the explosion in the shops. So it's not actually the medical use that has contributed to this rise in the shops around town. It's the recreational use. But to your point, would my preferred solution be more government crackdown? No, my preferred solution would be a moral core that generally rejects substances in the same way there's a moral obligation against irresponsible alcohol consumption, or maybe even alcohol consumption generally. There's a moral obligation against at least irresponsible marijuana consumption too. I don't know what your consumption habits are, Mr. Crackhead. You might be totally responsible about yours. I have no idea. So what I'm saying is the solution is not more government. The solution is shame you stoners and shame the drunks too. And you and your smelly Indian cooking friends, you guys should be shamed for all the scents that you release into the world around us. And that is the proper solution. I'm not going to send a cop after you necessarily. I'm just going to give you a tisk and a furrowed brow on the street when I have to smell your skunky cloud. I don't. Anyway, you're right. Like, you're right that this is one of those areas where, on pure principle, I totally understand where you're coming from. I also hate the stuff, so get it out of my face. That's kind of where I land on it. You have thoughts on legal weed, Robert?
I'll keep it brief because I'm sure this will anger many people, but no, make it illegal. I'm sorry. It should be illegal.
Do you have an argument for why it's different from alcohol? Or would you say prohibition, bring that back too?
Well, if that's what it would take, by the way, if somebody was like, well, to make weed illegal, then we must also make alcohol illegal.
No more ciders, Robert. It's over.
But it is, there are, to me, there's two things. Number one, when a substance is addictive, and I know people will immediately say weed is not, and I'm sorry, I'm not 5 years old. It obviously is. Like, we all have friends who've been high for the last 20 years and they cannot get off of it. Like, I'm not buying that. But number one, when a substance is addictive, then you can't really say, well, people need to have kind of like the free choice to do it if they want to, because the substance kind of by definition removes that choice. The only choice is to do it the first few times, and after that, they're hooked.
And you would grant the premise that alcohol has an addictive quality similarly, yeah?
I would say that alcohol...
For some people, at least.
For some people, it does. And so if somebody was like, well, then it should be illegal for like alcoholics to drink, fine, sure. Like, it's an addiction to them, and remove it, that's fine, whatever. But at the end of the day, this is why I'm not a libertarian. There are vices that society simply cannot bear. Like, look at the legalization of drugs in San Francisco or Seattle or whatever. Like, it destroys your society. And so there comes a point where even kind of the principles have to bend a little, and you have to go, look, like, for the most part, I believe in letting people do whatever the heck they want. But this actually has an impact on society that is drastic, and we cannot bear this. Like, it ruined society. So I'm sorry, we have to have some safeguards.
Sorry to all the potheads out there.
I am beyond angry.
We're going to get some angry emails.
Yes, I know. Send them to me, not to Matt, whatever.
Okay. Next up, Chief Justice is next. I don't want to skip him. Who do you like as vice president better, Pence or Vance? To me, this is a very easy question. And it's Pence by a mile. And I don't really have a problem with, or it's not Pence, it's Vance by a mile. So
okay, I was shocked. I was like, what?
No. Sorry. Apparently I've been hitting the weed a little bit too hard. It's Vance by a mile. And it's not that I have a problem with Pence. I know a lot of people don't like how he handled January 6th and some other things. Overall, I think Mike Pence is a good Christian man. I don't think he was a terrible vice president. I don't think he'd be a terrible president. However, J.D. Vance just has a political talent that Mike Pence does not. And it's not even that Mike Pence is wrong about this issue or that issue. It's just J.D. Vance is incredibly good off the cuff. He has that charismatic quality that lends itself to very convincing debate performances, although he did debate Tim Walz, so maybe he just had the benefit of Tim Walz. But I've seen him handle reporters as well. And what I like about J.D. Vance is that he has that Trumpian charisma quality to deal with people in debates, to deal with antagonistic reporters, but he's more refined in the presentation. He has a better grasp of the facts. He has a better grasp of the principles than Trump does, in my opinion. And I like Trump, but I think that if I had to refine the Trump character a little bit, to do away with some of the Trump excesses, some of the Trump faults where he says ridiculous things that are so far off that it's hard to take them seriously, and that's why you don't. That's kind of where J.D. Vance is to me. Now, his political career is still relatively young, so is there plenty of time for J.D. Vance to come back to the mean and reveal himself to be a politician much like all the others? Yeah, I'm sure many of you would probably say he's already there for reasons X, Y, and Z. But I think J.D. Vance is on a level of political talent that Mike Pence simply is not. Would you agree with that, Robert?
Well, I fully agree. And Vance is sharp. He gets the issues. Kind of like what you were saying, like much more than Trump. Vance really does get it. Now, he still has to be partisan. He's a politician. I get all of that. But in the way that he speaks, he reveals that he understands kind of the core of each issue that he's dealing with. And then he has the ability to communicate effectively. He would be great.
Presumably will be your nominee next time. I don't know who's going to challenge him. Maybe DeSantis again. I know primaries can often go ways you don't expect, but I would be pretty surprised if J.D. Vance is not your Republican nominee in 2028. Something has gone pretty crazy if that's the case.
I agree. Although I think that the left is going to win the next several elections, but that's...
You think so? You think they'll defeat J.D. Vance with who? Like Michelle Obama or something?
Yeah, with anyone. I think the left will win regardless of who they choose. I think they'll actually put California guy, Newsom.
Newsom v. Vance would be a very interesting cycle. And I wouldn't take Newsom lightly. I think he's a scumbag and a liar, and he's run his state very poorly, but he does have political talent. And
absolutely.
And I would not, if there's anybody I'd be worried about in a debate with J.D. Vance from the left, it's probably him. He's probably the most skilled presentationally that they have to offer. If you put out someone like AOC or some idiot like that, it's going to be complete destruction for them. But I think Newsom probably could hold his own. Now, I don't think he'll be connected to the truth, but I just mean he'll present himself in a way that is convincing to some people.
Absolutely. And I think what may happen, and I know that we have years before this happens, but it just seems to me that the affordability crisis will not be solved in time. Now I fully grant, let me just say this, that all the economic metrics are really good, but they're kind of abstract. Like people are broke, they are hurting. And when the left comes out and they go, hey, we care about you and we promise you the moon and the stars. Now, I'm not saying they will deliver. Let me be super clear.
Well, yeah. Let's look to California leadership for affordability. They'll do it. They will.
Exactly. Yeah. They will not deliver, but they will promise it. And people are hurting and they'll go, you know what? Trump didn't work out so good. Even if Trump's plan would eventually work, given maybe another 6 years or whatever. But that's just not how politics works.
Drew Westmoreland. Hello, Matt, and whoever is sitting shotgun is Robert tonight, of course. I was watching the stream from Sunday, January 11th. And had a few questions. Are gay folks just supposed to not exist and not have kids? There's about 60,000 kids without homes, and we have a massive shortage of children being born in the USA. Are gays not allowed to procreate? why would we make it harder to survive as a nation because we don't like them? Well, I understand what you're saying, so I'm not trying to be too dismissive here, but I want to say on the pure principle of it, gay people can't procreate, at least through their gay relationship. They can borrow the resources of a woman or a man to create a child, but when you do that, you intentionally deny that child its mother or its father, which is immoral because that is denying that child's right to its parent, to its mother or its father. It's putting the child at a disadvantage in service to a sexual preference. Sorry, Timmy. Sorry, little Julie. We know that you have a mom and a dad, but really you are coming into this family in service to the sexual preferences of this family. So that's why your mom or your dad are now excluded from your life, because it's really about the way that we prefer to get our jollies at night. And it's not about what's in the best interest of you. So when we talk about gay procreation, that's what we're talking about. And I know that's something different from the other part of your question, which is just about adoption. And in the context of adopting children who are orphaned or in some other sort of terrible situation, I have less of a problem with that because it's not intentionally depriving a child of its mother or its father. It's not creating a life with the intent of removing mom or dad from the situation for that kid. I still have some questions about it because I'm not convinced that two dads or two moms are necessarily in the best interest for the kid, although it might be relative to, say, no moms or no dads living at an orphanage or something like that. So I get where you're coming from. But I will say on the point of like, why would we make it harder to survive as a country? By definition, homosexuality is contrary to that survival theme because in its nature, it is not capable of producing new life. So I don't really grant the premise that we're making it harder to populate the future or have a productive future by not going along with the idea that gay parenthood is the same thing as the parenthood of one mother and one father, which is, of course, how all life is created. So I would draw that distinction there too. I don't think that having questions about gay parenthood is making it harder for the future. I think restoring traditional parenthood is the key to having a successful future for our country, for our society, for our species as human beings. I would also say that what I'm saying here is not just that I don't like gay people, which is the way it was phrased in the question. It's not about what I like or don't like. It's about that defining feature of the union of man and woman. That is the one thing that union can do that no other can. It can create new life. The union of man and man cannot create new life. The union of woman and woman cannot create new life. So it's not about my personal feelings about gay people, if they're icky or I don't like them. No, it's about that defining feature. That's what I'm getting at here in terms of crafting how I view these parenthood themes. It's about one of these relationships can create new life, the other can't. So the last thing I would say about this too is the question is, should we not have gay people? Should they not exist? Or how would you have gay people live their lives in the parenthood question? The first thing I'd say is the adoption thing. If you're not intentionally depriving a child of its mom or dad in design, I think there's potentially a solution there. But the other thing I'll say is in the purest form, the truth is we all have a moral obligation to restrain our sexual urges toward their purposes. A straight man has a moral obligation to constrain his sexual urges by marrying one woman to ensure that the new life that relationship creates is provided what it is owed, the father and the mother. If that sort of sexual restraint is expected for straight men and directing that sexual urge toward its proper end of procreation, I don't know why it's unfair to say that gay men should have similar constraints on their sexual behavior. That is to say, the sexual behavior has a God-given function. It is procreation. It is the creation of new life. I know that may be inconvenient toward what you personally enjoy, but even for the straight man, it is not about fundamentally what you personally enjoy. It's about constraining those urges toward their proper ends. So yeah, like would I say that to the gay man out there, suck it up and put it in a woman, because that's what it's about. Kinda, yeah. I get, like, I wouldn't urge you to deceive anybody. Don't lie to anybody. But I think that there are a lot of examples of men who thought they were gay, who have decided, you know what, I'm going to constrain my urges toward the God-given purpose for this relationship and this behavior. I'm not going to lie to somebody, but I'm going to try to orient my life toward the way this system was designed. And they go on to live great lives, and they often have great families, and they have great success. And, you know, you could disagree with me and say, you know, I'm born this way. I'm gay. I'm never going to fit into that mold. And you know what? I don't actually have a problem with you. I'm not trying to intervene in your life. I'm not trying to stop you. I would just say that it doesn't entitle you to a child, and it doesn't entitle you to take a parent away from that child to suit the needs or what you perceive to be the needs of your life. That's putting yourself first and the kid second. And that's why I have a big problem with it. But I hope that, you know what, just all gays on the train car, and we'll solve the problem that way. You got me, Drew. I know you're asking in good faith, so I'm not trying to mock you. But these are important questions, and they're, of course, they are sign-worthy questions.
Don't make me tap the sign.
I appreciate your thoughts, Drew. Robert, you have thoughts on that?
No, I really largely agree with you. So I don't want to, repeat everything you just said. I will add one thing to the adoption of children. I agree with you that, say, given the option of foster home or being adopted by a gay couple, adoption by a gay couple may be better. But certainly I think that gay couples should be at the end of the list of parents that are trying to adopt, meaning that heterosexual married couples should come first. And part of this, of course, is for moral reasons, but part of it, I mean, if you're not a believer or whatever, you can just look at it, say, scientifically. There's a professor, I believe from the University of Texas, who did research in this specific area showing that children reach much better outcomes when they were raised by heterosexual couples. His research was controversial. He was essentially brought up on charges in the university. And so the university investigated. His work was peer reviewed. It was found to be essentially flawless. And it's just like the reality of life that children are meant to be raised by a man and a woman. And so again, I think that the morality should end the debate, but if it doesn't, then sure, look at the science, trust the science.
Sorry, I have to mute my mic because I got a neighbor with a loud exhaust who's taken off. But see, now you're doing the Kavanaugh. You're defaulting to the science rather than the moral truth.
That's right. I'm just throwing that out there in case somebody's interested.
Thank you, Drew. I appreciate your question. Maya May Zingpecker.
That's disgusting.
We got another Maya. Last week I had Maya Dixon Butte, and I thought her name was Maya Dixon a butt. But it's Maya Dixon Butte. That's apparently her real name, or so she wants me to believe. But Maya May Zingpecker says, America First people seem to criticize Trump's overthrowing of Maduro by putting Venezuela before America, where leftists seem focused on the fact that it violates international law. What is your opinion on the international law aspect of this? I've heard some conservatives say that international law does not exist. Do you agree with that? As a practical matter, international law is not real because there's nobody to police it. There's nobody to enforce it. It's a set of nice things on paper with no actual force behind it. So without force, it's not real law in practical terms. Look at our borders under Biden. Like, there were things on paper that said you have to enter the country this way, and then we just decided we're not going to do that. And what became of that law? Was it real? I mean, it was text on a piece of paper, but was it real in effect? No, for a long time there. But should international law be enforced? Or even created? No, I don't care what other countries think about my country. They certainly they have no basis to police domestically at all. But that would be for the same reason I don't want an intrusive federal government. I certainly don't want some intrusive world government. I don't care what scumbags overseas have to say about what's going on in my country. But I guess the question is, should there be international law that governs the internet, the interaction of countries? And even that, I don't want the behavior of my country constrained by the whims of foreign scumbags. It's a lot of bad guys in these other countries. If you don't believe me, look at the state of their countries. They're very crappy. And so I don't want their rules govern. So I have a lot of skepticism about our intervention in foreign countries, and I would like to see it in many ways more restrained than it has been in recent decades. That doesn't mean that I want scumbags from other countries telling us how to do it. So international relations to me is really, it will always be the Wild West. In the Wild West, you don't seek conflict. It's generally advisable not to, but conflict has a way of coming your way out there in that lawless world. And so you have to be prepared to defend yourself. Speak softly, but carry a big stick is the phrase, and or carry some big meat, maybe. And that's generally what I believe. But Robert, I would have a hard time. I can't imagine that you're a big international law fan.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's fake. It's like a made up fantasy. It's like all the countries got together and they were like, we should get along. And they were like, yeah, of course. Like, let's all get along. But then when someone doesn't, like, what are the consequences? Nothing. Like, nothing.
They shake their fist.
Exactly. It's more of like an excuse to interfere. Essentially, when powerful nations want to stop a smaller nation, they're like, oh, well, that smaller nation is violating international law. Like, it only matters when it benefits the more powerful country.
And it's because they have a means of enforcing. Like they are, even if it's only economic or something, they have more power to exercise. And that's all it comes down to. It's not a matter of principle. It's just another way. It's just another gun to point, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So let's cut the crap and just use real guns.
Exactly. Let's just like be honest and be like, I'm doing this because I'm stronger. Period. Because this really what's happening. The rest is just a facade.
Thank you, Maya. Some do, just my 2 cents, but there's nothing wrong about mentioning political topics in church. Some say things like no politics in church, just the word of God, but many political topics, the word of God has something to say about. It's difficult because so little of actual Christian values are being put forward in the political world, but there are some clear black and whites. There are some gray areas as well, immigration being one of many, one that many congregations argue about, but I don't think there's anything wrong with making a Christian argument for one side or the other. And just because someone might feel differently about a topic doesn't mean you leave right away. Discussion and communication is vitally important. A healthy congregation, to a healthy congregation. And just because some people feel differently about some topics shouldn't be a reason to leave. So this is in the context of me and Joshy talking about this, Robert, and then VV had some chats about it too. And he was saying he's having a hard time finding a church that doesn't just inject politics into everything. And so I would, first of all, I'd say the context of our conversation was more about like a church sermon or church leadership getting into politics rather than just, hey, there's a guy I know who goes to my church and he has a different political view than I do, and we talk about it sometimes. What I'm talking about, and I think what VV was talking about, is where the politics or the current events of the day become the organizing premise of the church. Of course, the organizing premise of a church, in my opinion, should be the teachings of Jesus Christ. That's why I go to the church. I don't go there for a news roundup. I don't go there for news analysis. There might be some intersection, but the teachings of Jesus have to be primary. And any mention of current events and news and politics to me has to be very, very peripheral, very distant. It might come up, but it is not the focus of the teachings of the church. And I think that's the even bigger problem with a lot of these churches. It's not just that current events come up. It's that current events and current politics are the primary focus of the church, and God is second. God at these churches serves the political viewpoint. The political viewpoint doesn't serve God. Why are you flying a rainbow flag outside of the building right there alongside the cross, as though these things are of comparable or similar value at this institution? So I totally take your point, some dude, that like, do I go into a church expecting every guy in there to agree with everything I have to say? And if I hear even one opinion that is contrary to my viewpoint, I'm out. No, of course not. And I think a little bit of disagreement about scriptural matters or even current political matters is fine. It's healthy. That's how you find the truth. The ideas compete. But you got to be wary and constantly analyzing, what is the primary purpose of this church? What message does it primarily seek to put forward, or why does it exist? Does it exist to talk about the teachings of Jesus Christ, or does it exist to shove the teachings of Jesus Christ into a preferred current day political narrative? And that's why the organization is actually existing. That's what we're watching out for. So I don't know, Robert, I know you probably have a lot of thoughts about politics and church in that way.
Man, I do. So several things. One, I think that there's absolutely nothing wrong with mentioning politics from the pulpit. Now, of course, wisdom must be applied. I agree with everything that you said, but in principle, like, let's just address the principle of it. Is there something wrong with addressing politics? No. We act like politics is like this special, magical, secular area that is like the one thing that the gospel doesn't touch or whatever. It's like we can tell people about, hey, you should be responsible with your money. Hey, you should only have sex within the confines of heterosexual marriage. Hey, like, essentially we can address every area of life. But if somehow it goes into politics, it's like, oh, no. That's the one area that God was like, no, that is a free-for-all. Just politics is do whatever you want. So it's in principle, it's obviously okay. Now, of course, it must be done wisely. And I do think that churches because churches have come to believe that in principle it is wrong to talk about politics from the pulpit, they've abdicated their role in society, which has resulted in the current state of affairs. Like, churches share a large portion of the blame because they effectively checked out. That and explicitly so. They were like, hey, we want nothing to do with society. We're not even going to talk about it. And then society goes to crap. It's like, yeah, of course, like, you did this on purpose. So I'll say that. However, I kind of want to defend Vivi. I don't know his situation at all. But if I'm just going to say this because of some life experiences that I've had. I've been very, very involved in churches and denominations in the past, and I'll just leave it at that. People might not be able to fathom how wildly liberal these churches are that Vivi's going to. Now, again, I don't know if that's truly the case, or if he's overreacting, but I mean, there are churches.
I've seen them in the hoax hate segments. They're very real. They're like right down the street from me, actually.
Yeah, and sometimes they have nuclear takes. Like, yeah. I mean, if I was attending a church and one day the pastor was like, look, Trump is a dictator. He needs to be impeached or some other way taken out of power. ICE are, their new Gestapo. Illegal immigration is fake and all persons are legal, or whatever it is that they say. All humans are legal. I don't even know what to say. I mean, there are churches where that is said from the pulpit. And I would not be leaving that church because they talked about politics. I'd be leaving that church because they're absolutely wrong about politics. And it's like, I can't stay somewhere where they're so like nuclearly wrong. And so I do want to extend that grace to the person. I don't know which churches he has gone to, but if you have listeners from more conservative parts of the country, just know that there are wild cases out there.
Yeah. Thank you for the insight on that. And thank you, some dude. Okay, me for free. Quick point on the hotel protesters. Joshy Boy said, imagine paying for a hotel stay in your family or with your family and then having to put up with this, that being the mob of protesters and kind of low-grade rioters outside in Minneapolis over the weekend. It's a fair point, but a more important thing is, imagine being a hotel owner or any other business owner in the area and paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in property taxes, payroll taxes, and other sorts of fees, and nothing to be done by your government to protect your business. The question is, when do we all stop paying taxes? Well, first of all, yes.
Bingo.
We should. the rights of many were violated that night, not just the customers at the hotels, but the owners in exactly the way that you're describing. There's been talk of a tax revolt lately. Marjorie Taylor Greene, some other people talking about that. That meaning just we all decide to stop paying taxes because after all, they can't put us all in prison if a critical mass of us just said, nope, not paying you crooks at the IRS anymore. Too bad. And it is true. Like there aren't enough prosecutors. There aren't enough jail cells for all of us if we actually did that. Problem is, and I'm sure you can tell me plenty more about it, Robert, the infrastructure of withholding money from your paycheck is so embedded that this is far more than a matter of a critical mass of individuals just saying, I'm not paying the IRS anymore. I've never actually done this at an employer. But as far as the money that is withheld from your paycheck, can you just say no to the withholding, or is the withholding required?
It's kind of a partial answer. For income tax withholdings, yes, you could fill out a W-4 that says, actually, you could say exempt, or you could just say I have 15 dependents or whatever, and the withholding will go down to zero. But the Social Security and Medicare portion, you can generally not opt out. You could claim a religious exemption.
There's
like
religious exemption to that?
Yeah, like the Amish do.
Speaking of getting a new church, I think I just found one. Whatever that church is, I'm in.
Yeah, I believe the Amish are exempt from Social Security because they don't. Yeah, and that's been the case for essentially since it started for many decades. But for most of us, that would not be an option.
So, I mean, and this is the trouble is for us to do a true tax revolt requires not just the participation of individuals, but it would require mass participation of business entities, which for the most part are not looking to bring that sort of controversy on their business. They're looking for stability. And I don't think they want IRS raids and all that stuff going on. So obviously my preferred solution is just do away with the income tax. We don't have that anymore. But as I've talked about many times, if we just got rid of all the automatic withholding and deductions and all this, if everybody had to write the checks to the IRS or in the modern form, go on their stupid website that's like it's from 1995 and navigate that impossible piece of crap website. And when you finally get to the box to type in the number of what you have to pay them and separate with that money yourself, not only does that empower us more to do this sort of revolt, which by the way is our moral right. There's nothing immoral about not paying these people just because however many people voted for income tax or how many states did back in the day or Congress approved it as a constitutional amendment and then wrote up the tax code. That doesn't matter how many people vote to steal your stuff. That's not the definition of property, is how many people voted to take it. The definition of property, the defining feature of property, is your labor that went into the resource to produce the property. So there's not giving them your money. There's nothing immoral about it other than it's a violation of their stupid laws, so they point guns at your face. But if we could just get to a point where everybody actually had individual control of separating with their tax money in that way, I think it would change a lot of people's perspective on how much they're taxed, how valid that taxation is or not. That seems like a very modest ask for Congress, but we're never going to get that either. They're just going to sneakily take your money under the intended structure. So you don't really notice. You kind of forget how much they actually take from you.
That is very true. I mean, like you said, people would be outraged if they had to write a check at the end of the year. Like the amount of money the government takes is just bewildering. Now, to your, not caller, but to the emailer's point, I've said this to you before, Matt. I do think that if there really ever comes a true revolution, it will be a silent revolution that will do exactly this. Because you could stop income tax withholdings, and then you could refuse to file a tax return. And the federal government could do nothing. They do not have the enforcement power. They could do nothing. And so if there ever comes kind of this point where you have a critical mass of people, like let's say a whole town or a whole county just goes, you know what? We're not paying income tax. That could very easily spread then to the whole state because it is the kind of revolt that is easy and that feels good. And those are the ones that tend to be successful because like, essentially, let's say that I come to you and I'm like, hey, Matt, I have this like big evil plan. And you're like, okay. what does it require of me? And I'm like, that you keep more of your money. It's kind of an appealing sale, right? You're like, okay, like, okay. And I'm telling the government could do nothing. And so I could see that that's the way that the federal government ends. And I always thought it would come from the right. With all this stuff that is happening, I'm beginning to realize that I was a fool, and it will come from the left.
Well, they are doing their defund ICE and Homeland Security now, and it's like, well, I do believe that is one of the constitutionally valid purposes for the federal government, but I'm listening. Go on about defunding the feds. But we'll see.
They're beginning to talk about like not paying taxes, and I'm like, okay, like sure.
Oh no, not that. All right. Thank you. That was me for free. Last one here is from Technically a Fed.
Fed.
Hey, Matt, I'm currently training with the Air Force as a chaplain. I know your brother was in the military, and if you don't mind answering, if you had joined up, have you thought about what service you would join and what you would want to do in the service? Thanks. Well, first of all, thank you for your service to the country, and God bless you in that role too. And yeah, my brother was an Army paratrooper. He was in the 82nd Airborne. I've talked about that a bunch before, but I did briefly consider joining the military after college. I did talk to recruiters from the Army and the Marine Corps. I was considering maybe officer candidate school or just enlisting. For me, I was only really ever half in. This was 2010 when I graduated from college. It was kind of a rough economy then, and I was having trouble finding a job. And for me, it was more about, all right, like I'm not going to live at my parents' house after college, even though I am working in my parents' house right now, but under different successful circumstances. But it was more about like, I will not just be sitting at home waiting tables like I was doing in high school. I wasn't super enthusiastic about a military idea, but it was a possibility that I considered preferable to just like living at home with my parents or something like that. So I went through the motions and I talked to some recruiters. I never got as far as thinking like I would do this job in this branch, but I was just kind of doing my due diligence. So I am the classic stereotypical, I almost joined up, man. I was right there. I pretty much would have been, I'm sure I would have been on the Bin Laden raid right after that. I would have been going in and I would have been saving the world. No, it was really just like a fallback option that didn't get fully explored. But now later on in life, who knows what my life would have been if I had joined the military. Obviously, I would have been in a different circumstance. I think regret is too strong of a word. I don't regret the way that I've led my life because it's led me to what I have now, and I really appreciate what I have now. But I do have a lot of respect and admiration for guys who did sign up, who did their service, and it's experience that I wish I had. I just think there's something to that duty to country and that bond of people who have been in that situation with each other. And I know all of you who actually have done time in the service are laughing at me right now because you're like, dude, I just spent like 4 years with a bunch of retards and there was nothing glorious about it at all. And you're probably right. It probably was just that. But there's just a certain duty to country that I feel like guys who were in fulfilled that I didn't fulfill. And I'll always have a little bit of second guessing about that. But then I know too, hey, I'm only 38, not that old, and we still got the gay war coming. We got the robot war coming. There are many imminent wars that I still have the opportunity to become a hero in. So it's not. I might become a grizzled vet one day. Who knows what the future holds? But yeah, the me in the military was only thought about for like probably a couple months, and that was it. So. Robert, you are not you're a foreigner, right? I mean, you weren't in the U.S. military. If you were in the military, or did you have any military history?
No, in Chile, everybody in theory, when guys graduate from high school, then they have to do a year in the military. But if you go to college, you can get out of it. So really, most guys get out of it. I did not do it. I had come to the States. I was not a citizen here or whatever. So I mean, I don't know. This was just not in the cards for me. I did at some point.
By the way, if people don't know, Robert, when he says I was not a citizen here, he is a citizen now. Robert did it the hard way. If people don't know, that's another story.
It took nearly 20 years.
Yeah, he did it.
when you guys come deport me, I am gonna like gripe. I'm gonna be like, "Yo, I worked hard for this."
Yeah.
As the ICE agent is shooting me in the face or whatever.
Yeah.
But I did consider for a minute joining the FBI, but I couldn't because of my citizenship status.
What the this was a different Robert. All right.
Well, when I was like 23 or whatever, like the FBI loves accountants. And I just thought like the whole like kind of being like secret agent life sounded cool.
Yeah.
But of course I didn't qualify and now I'm too old for any of that. So that's that. But I very much appreciate this person. I mean, becoming a chaplain and all that.
Yeah.
And thanks to everybody who's serving the country.
Well, that'll do it on email questions tonight. Appreciate you emailers. Again, if you'd like to send an email or voicemail for the show, you can do that through the contact page of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. And with that, we will catch up with Super Chat here. We'll call it a night. But where did I leave off? Long Dong John and his big meat joke. That was it. Taker 610. Whenever I hear assigned at birth, I think of the doctor wearing Harry Potter, the Harry Potter sorting hat and just choosing what you are at birth. Now, I don't know Harry Potter. Do you know the sorting hat?
Yeah, it's how they choose the houses. So like the student will put the hat on and it's like, you're Slytherin or whatever.
Okay.
It's like, you're a boy.
Injured Guardian. Capitalist may have once been an insult. Pathetic used to be a compliment. I guess I didn't know that either. Change happens. P.S. H.G. Wells was far better than Orson. I don't know. I guess the name rings a bell, but I guess I didn't know. H.G. Wells is famous for what? He's an English writer and political thinker. Mm-hmm. Pioneer of science fiction. I guess I didn't know that those two were brothers. But makes sense. Okay. Thank you for that, Injured Guardian. Tim says, this really frustrates me. Women could fall pregnant later in life. They could also win the lottery. Women are never explained the difference between could and likely. Plus, frozen is always way shittier than fresh, like implanted popsicle embryos. And, as I've thought about the morality of reproduction, what is life in the context of very early life, we think of abortion or we think of IVF or these things. God, man, I've started going down that rabbit hole a little bit lately too, like all the IVF stuff and the ethics of that. And it's not something I've thought about very much because thankfully our family has been blessed not to have fertility problems and all those things. But the more we've created like alternatives to the natural way of reproduction, the crazier things have started to get. I'm not saying that with any sort of judgment or condemnation toward those of you who may have fertility problems and have opted for certain methods. I'm not coming at you from that perspective. I'm just like, speaking of the science, the more like science has developed alternative methods, I just like that stuff makes me nervous and it makes me a little worried, like playing God type stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. And I really feel for couples that cannot have children. So like, I say this with no disrespect, but essentially we are no longer okay with accepting an outcome, a certain outcome. Like, let's say that you just can't have children. That's unacceptable to us as modern people. And it's like, no, we need to find ways around it, even if they have ethical side effects that are really rough. But I'll just leave it at that because I feel for people in that situation.
Yeah. And I will say too, for whatever questions I have about IVF and these things, not all of them are equal necessarily.
Of course.
One of the videos I did before Christmas break, like for the couple out there that just honest to God is having a lot of trouble, and this is the method that they have arrived at to have a child of their own and love that child and build a family. All right, that's definitely something different than Chinese billionaires populating entire mansions in Southern California with a bunch of their kids, with moms they don't even know, just so they can have 1 million heirs to their fortune who are all American citizens by virtue of abusing birthright citizenship. It's like, to me, it's a classic example of something that is done with good intentions initially, and could, I suppose, be restrained to those proper good intentions, and not necessarily a reason it can't be, being expanded to all sorts of categorically evil ways. And that's kind of what's frustrating too, is like, even in the birthright citizenship context, we've created these pathways to abuse. Like the combination of scientific methods at creating life that didn't previously exist with this nonsense standard that anybody who's born here for any reason is a citizen. You have foreign adversaries farming citizens on our soil because there's supposedly a constitutional right to do that, and now a scientific means. They're building an army on our soil in Southern California, and we're like, well, clearly what the founding fathers intended. Nothing wrong with this. That's, hey, what are you going to do? That's what the 14th Amendment says. I don't know. Mm-hmm. All right. Joshy boy, Matt over here proving force doctrine tonight. I guess what's force doctrine?
I'm not exactly sure. I think this is when we were talking about maybe international law.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, force doctrine refers to the fundamental principles guiding how military forces apply power, encompassing beliefs, concepts, and methods for employment across different levels. And I know when you say that internationally, it's like, well, it comes off as kind of a might makes right argument. I'm not saying that power justifies any international behavior. I'm saying, and as a practical matter, it is what governs what is and is not allowed to happen. You can be the most powerful country and still wildly immoral, just absolutely murdering everyone you don't like for no good reason. What I'm saying is like some international law against that, like, hey, now stop that. Without a way to enforce it, it's not functionally a law. And that's the problem with international law. There's no method of enforcement, practically speaking. The moral terms still apply, of course.
I mean, as a famous man said, the only thing really limiting us is our own moral principles.
Yes, right. Yeah, the Trump thing.
Yeah, the Trump thing. Like, it's true. It's true.
I found that commentary so fascinating. I know for some people it's like, wow, this is the most sleep-worthy video I've ever seen. But I found just that simple statement so interesting. Like, yeah, there is something that would restrain me. My own morality. Like, what... Do you not have that? Do you not have a moral framework that restrains you? Oh, what a bad guy. No, we actually need that in everybody. We're lacking that lately.
And it's just the truth. Like the reason that the U.S. is not taking over other countries is not because of international law. It's because of the morality of the United States.
Yeah, exactly. Like we could extend our empire far further than it already is if we wanted to.
Absolutely. And so to me, it's kind of nonsensical that was ever controversial. It's like, that's just literally true.
Joshy Boy says, politics can be discussed during fellowship or privately with your pastor or priest. It's not appropriate during worship, which is a time set for God. I would be most disapproving of the politics in my church if it was a formal part of, say, the sermon. That would really irritate me. That's where I would, I get what he's saying. Like in this place, but not that place, I'm more understanding of.
Certainly, I mean, like I said, it is a matter of wisdom and it needs to be addressed properly. And I know that Joshy Boy is Eastern Orthodox, and so their service has a certain structure to it. So, I would never kind of argue that with an Eastern Orthodox. It's like, I get it where you're coming from, what your service is like.
Tim says, when you said, I don't want to intervene in your life, isn't that what caused a lot of shit these days? We told people certain behaviors were perfectly acceptable in their own home, so they demanded said behavior must also be acceptable in public. Yeah, kind of, although I do respect, I actually have a wide respect and tolerance for a lot of things that you may want to do in your own home that don't involve compromising the rights of others. I may have an opinion about the morality of them. In fact, I often will, because there are moral principles that guide these things. But as far as, I think what people confuse a lot is, even though I have a lot of moral question marks about homosexuality in general, it's not to be confused with a desire to come at you with the law on behalf of those moral question marks. Those moral question marks are valid, but I guess what I'd say is my view of the role of the law is not to enforce morality to self. It's to protect the rights of the individual from infringements by others. And if you want to be a gay person in your own home without violating the rights of others, generally I don't think that's a matter for the law to intervene in. I will have opinions about whether that behavior is wise, moral, right. But if you're not involving another person, if you're not victimizing another person, if you're not violating their rights, it's not a matter for the law to come crack down on you, in my view of what the appropriate role of the law is. So that's why I clarify. Like, people confuse a criticism of a certain behavior with an idea that, like, I'm going to come crack down on you. No, I'm going to try to convince you that there are problems here. This is not correct. But I'm not going to exercise some sort of authoritarian rule over you on behalf of it. I'm going to try to persuade you. That's all. So thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. I think we're good over on YouTube and Tippy. I did have a couple come through on Rumble, so Ginger Ninja has a couple here. Again, if I missed any, Tim, if you have those instructions for Rumble, I could try quickly, but we'll probably just call it a night here. Ginger Ninja says, really quick, Tim, I don't dye my hair. I was assigned redhead at birth. Does anyone care? Don't anyone dare call me trans ginger. That's what trans ginger is, right? So don't say that, Jumanji. He's a real ginger. He's not trans ginger. Also says, Matt, if you like cider, have you tried the brand Dickens? I think you'd like Dickens cider. Would I like Dickens cider? I'll have to
That's disgusting.
I'll have to try it out. Dickens cider? Oh, that sounds great. All right.
The best one is the Stella Artois.
Oh, do they make a good one? I prefer drier to sweeter. Even though I like a lot of sweet things, when it comes to cider, it's got to be dry.
Yeah, and the Stella one is dry, and that's why I like it. But it has that apple taste. I don't know. I like it, although I can no longer find it. I haven't found it in years.
I don't think I've seen it. I see Stella around, of course, but I don't think I've seen the cider. I'll check it out if I see it in the store. Tim, are you there?
Yeah. And by the
So
way,
what should I do on Rumble?
Well, just quickly, I know you're laughing because you think that's a joke company name. It actually exists. And
Dickens is that's a real thing?
Yeah, and the slogan is obviously playing into it. Everyone loves a good, hard Dickens cider.
Is this an Aussie thing? That sounds like an Aussie thing.
Well, it says where to buy it in Australia. I don't know if it's only in Australia. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I know Ginger Ninja's not in Australia, but that sounds like an Aussie thing to do. Anyway, I'm trying to keep this under 3 hours here, so let's...
Okay, so we'll be really quick. So are you on Rumble, I assume?
Yeah, I can open it up.
Okay, so if you click on your little icon at the top right there and hit account settings.
Yeah.
And then once you're in account settings, down the left side where you've got your options, stats and analytics, if you click account overview.
Yeah.
And then right down the bottom left, there's a section that says rants in the last 60 days.
Oh, they did do it. Okay, yeah, so we're caught up. It's just Ginger Ninja. But this is helpful because now I know I can track these down in the future if I have to get these on a future stream. So now I know.
No worries. I'll write it down and send it to you so you can paste it somewhere and have it on hand.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
No worries.
Appreciate it. All right. Anything else, Robert, before we're out of here?
I may have to travel to Australia in the next few months. I'll have to get in touch with Tim.
Are you serious or are you joking?
No, I'm serious.
You're actually going to Australia?
I might. I'm confident I'll have to go sometime this year. So we will see how that goes.
All right. I would love to go to Australia, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. Anyway.
I go out to like the middle of nowhere and it's like not as glamorous as people
You're going to
might
ride your
think.
motorcycle across the Outback this time instead of to the Arctic Circle.
I've been considering just buying one there and doing that.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks to our live chatters, super chatters. If you're listening on demand later, thank you kindly as well for supporting the show. Thanks to our callers, emails. Thanks to Robert. Thanks to Tim. MattChristiansenmedia.com or mattis.gay. I'll be back on Sunday.